Chapter 678, Soul Fragments. Chapter 678, Soul Fragments. The Dark Clan and the Demon Clan left. Corpse Chief of the Corpse Clan and Kunter of the Dark Spirit Clan didn't linger either. They got out of the place quietly, leaving Comoros of the Ghost Mark Clan and his fellows there. Waiting until all the other tribes had left, Comoros' tense face relaxed. He released his soul consciousness, sensing around for a while. He found that all of the other 4 tribes had left the ice and fire secret domain. A green light shot out from his eyes, as strange, gloomy cries emitted from his sleeves. The yin-written charm scripture, the halidom of the Ghost Mark Clan, flew out. Under his control, it flew towards the entrance of the secret domain. Comoros sat down cross-legged, pouring his flows of pure soul consciousness into it. Shortly, the scripture diffused many beams of thick mysterious yin-chi that seemed to never disperse. The yin-written charm scripture flew into the entrance of the secret domain, slowly moving forward in the matrix of the colorful lights. If one observed, they could see many blocks of meat floating deep inside that unpredictable entrance. In a deeper place, soul fragments bobbed here and there. It seemed that they didn't scatter according to natural principles. Comoros was struck with joy, his eyes bright as stars. He started manipulating the yin-written charm scripture even more carefully. The yin-written charm scripture was like a giant mouth that would never feel tired. In that matrix of light, it was devouring the soul fragments, entering deeper into the place. The further it went, the more powerful the soul fragments were. Soul fragments in this entrance belonged to warriors with strong soul energy and profound realm. That area was bizarre, as if it could change the principles of heaven and earth. It could preserve the soul fragments, making them wander around the place eternally. They roamed around and never vanished. Magical symbols of the yin-written charm scripture sparkled one after another, indicating that they had gained the energy from the soul fragments. The yin-written charm scripture gathered more and more soul energy, while Comoros felt joyful receiving the response from the scripture. He was surprised on finding some mighty soul fragments deep in the entrance. The energy inside wasn't less than the soul of a true God Realm warrior. Comoros was struck. He got it immediately, shivering while sitting on the ground. Those were just the soul fragments, but they weren't weaker than the true God Realm warriors. How strong that soul was when the warrior was alive. King God Realm. As this thought flashed through his head, Comoros wanted to swing his arms and shout. When the time came, nothing could stop it. He suddenly got to know that people who had gone through this secret entrance weren't only the low-realm human warriors hiding in the ice and fire secret domain. At some point far in the past, some imposing existences had entered this place and buried their bodies there as well. Due to the existence of the strange field that went against nature's orders, the fragments of their powerful souls hadn't vanished yet, staying deep inside the entrance. Only a special divine weapon like the yin-written charm scripture could enter that chaotic space basin to collect the soul fragments, which could help repair the damage to the yin-written charm scripture and revive their patriarch from the center of the ancient sacrificial altar. Comoros felt like he had drunk ice-cold water on a burning hot day. He felt refreshed, as if his pores were filled with joy. He was shaking in thrill. He had a premonition that not long afterward, he would be able to rebuild the soul of the Ghost Mark Clan's patriarch and revive him from the yin-written charm scripture. How long had it been? It had been so long that he had almost forgotten the figure and the imposing power of his patriarch. If he hadn't used all of his energy to save the tribe, the Ghost Mark Clan would have soon vanished into the yin-written charm scripture. His patriarch had used his power, and he didn't even regret that he would have to scatter his god soul to preserve the bloodline of the Ghost Mark Clan. The great, mighty patriarch of the Ghost Mark Clan had always been in the hearts of the Ghost Mark Clan's clansmen. They would never forget him. As soon as they had left the yin-written charm scripture, they had pledged to resurrect their patriarch at any cost. As long as he could be revived. Comoros' face was cold. Malicious light sparkled from his eyes, as he was calculating something. Among the 5 tribes, the Ghost Mark Clan was the weakest. Being the sage of the Ghost Mark Clan, he was mocked and disdained very often. Bao Ao and the other leaders wouldn't give him any face at all. It was all because the Ghost Mark Clan's force was weak. After so many years of being consumed continually, They had a significant loss that couldn't be recovered shortly. And that brat Yang. Comoros smiled fiendishly. So many resentments and sorrows vanished when he knew his patriarch would return soon. They had been waiting in sorrow for so long. Now, it was the time to receive what they deserved. He almost shouted so that everyone could know that the Ghost Mark clan, the strong force that had its name known everywhere, was about to rise again. Crack, crack, crack. Suddenly, sounds of impact echoed from the Yin written charm scripture. Comoros seemed to have been hit, spitting a mouthful blood. He became distressed. The Yin written charm scripture had entered too deep, and he couldn't see it for a long time. At this moment, he could only use the soul connection to feel its location. Comoros recognized that the Yin written charm scripture seemed to have encountered something formidable in that chaotic space basin. It could be a formation created naturally, or something strange that could make the Yin written charm scripture shiver in fear. Comoros hesitated for only 1 second. He decided quickly and retrieved the Yin written charm scripture using his feeble soul connection with it. As soon as the Yin written charm scripture got his thought, it returned to him, following the old track. After 1 hour, the Yin written charm scripture fell into his palm from the entrance of the secret domain. All the ghostly symbols and words of the Ghost Mark clan became lively like snakes crawling. Waves of strong mysterious Yin energy rippled from the scripture, hitting his soul. His body and soul got minor damage, but Comoros didn't care about his body, releasing the soul to sense for a while. He couldn't press his joy, facing the sky and laughing contentedly. Hot tears rolled down his face, without him knowing it. Patriarch, you're about to come back to life. Little Comoros had to wait for you for too long. Comoros cried and laughed at the same time, as if he were mentally ill. Next to the ancient tree, Bao Ao looked at the magic mirror floating above his head. A smile filled his face. The magic mirror was showing the city center where Yang was staying. Bao Ao could see every face of the human clan's hotshots. That kid's good. I didn't think that he could kill Lin Meng's team. Ha ha. It's beyond our estimation. Interesting, really interesting. Jieji glared at the mirror and then laughed. Seems like we don't need to hurry. Yeah, first, we should send some men to kill the human clan members that escaped that area. After we clean them up, we will continue. We aren't in a rush. Bao Ao smiled warmly, turning around to order his people. Bo Ruo, Guda Sai, you two take our men and check the entire perpetual night forest. When you meet human beings, kill them all. Bo Ruo smiled deliberately. She was riding a level 8 beast, holding a little girl in her lap. She smacked the girl and then chuckled. Yes, sir. Guda Sai and Bo Ru didn't talk much, riding their giant beasts and flying away like masses of black clouds. Jieji was surprised for a while, then hastened to assign his soldiers. Kumu. You fool, why don't you move your *s now? If you're late, we will have nothing to harvest. A group of Demon Clan's clansmen standing behind Jieji in black armor immediately rode their beasts, flying away. Kunter of the Dark Spirit clan didn't say anything, sending a thought to his people. Shortly, the Dead Soul's evil lair appeared above an area where many human beings were running for their lives. Dark green tentacles extended from the evil lair, dragging those people. They were the members of the Aroke family. Bai Jen Seng could only watch the tentacles of the Dead Soul's evil lair. He had no choice but to try dodging them all, trying to make a way to the edge of the perpetual night forest. Corpse Chief of the Corpse Clan also ordered his members. Get underground and collect the corpses. Members of the Corpse Clan, except for Corpse Mount and Corpse Sea, started to get into the ground, disappearing shortly. Comoros hasn't come out yet. I think he does want something. Jieji laughed evilly. He doesn't want to live anymore, I guess. No need to mention him, even King God Realm experts have to die on entering that place. Never mind him. We should visit Yang. When he gets out, he will find us. Bao Ao frowned, as he disdained the Ghost Mark clan. In his eyes, this tribe was so weak that it wasn't worth his attention. How about you? Jieji looked at the Dark Clan and the dim halo. Apparently, a creature was staying inside that dim halo protected by Yama King's ABI, Hei Tian, and Hades. It seemed that creature didn't have a body, it existed in a mysterious soul form. Even he and Bao Ao couldn't see how strong that one was. They could only know that it had a strange living aura and the Dark Clan's aura. However, its energy fluctuation was something really special they had never seen before. Jieji and Bao Ao were a little bit afraid of that creature. "We'll go to the city where the human clan gathers," said Yama King Abi faintly. Jieji nodded. He and Bao Ao exchanged looks, then slowly soared up into the sky. They drifted like two clusters of cotton clouds, moving towards Shiyang's city. Corpse Chief and Kunter followed them closely, not waiting for Comoros. In their hearts, they didn't really appreciate the Ghost Mark clan, and didn't treat Comoros like someone at their level. Not long after they had left, the ancient tree emitted energy waves, and Comoros stepped out with a bright face. Strange grey clouds floated in his eyes. They were made of the extremely thick mysterious yin qi, which carried a peculiar power. Comoros' aura had a total change. Although he stood still on the spot, the heaven and earth energy rolled towards him as if it were attracted by something. He was in the true god realm, but he only had 1/3 of his energy remaining when he got out of the confinement. Finally, he had restored it fully. Confidence came back to him, changing his bearing with it. Chapter 679, Drink. Chapter 679, Drink. City Center. Human Clan, Winged Clan, Dark Devil Clan, and even the Monster Clan were all busy. Under the arrangement of Yang Zhuo's team, people who were allowed to get into the city had submitted the materials to supplement the barriers, formations, and restrictions. Rare and precious materials submitted were arranged and distributed properly into the formations. At this moment, the city center became hustling and bustling. The cheers and compliments of women resounded continually. People who were allowed to enter the city felt lucky, as they were still alive after a big catastrophe. They followed Yang Zhuo's orders obediently. Yang Tian Emperor and Cao Qiu Dao had returned. The Yang family's traitors were all killed. Yang Tian Emperor didn't hate them for leaving the family, but he hated them because they had betrayed the Yangs. They had enticed the others to make them leave, promising them something good from the Pure Land and Martial Spirit Palace. The ringleaders of this plan were Feng Xiao of Devil Valley and Xue Mu of Pure Land. They had used power and position to make Shen Lin and Dong Ji follow them. These two didn't care about the friendship they had with the Yangs, and decided to attack them. In Yang Tian Emperor's eyes, these people were worth 10,000 death sentences. So, they were all dead now. Yu Ru and Yi Tian Mo were in the true god realm after using the Creator's divine pond. When they came back with high spirits, they felt contented on seeing everybody safe and sound. In this chaotic time, following an imposing and wise leader was their luck. And luckily, Shi Yang was such a leader. Bing Qing Tong, Leng Danqing, Han Kui, and Shuang Yuzhu stayed in the city center, gazing at Shi Yang as if they were afraid that he would do something lustful. They all had upset eyes. Currently, there were hundreds of beauties in this city. Those women acted like they had taken aphrodisiac. When they saw Shi Yang, they threw him flirty glances, revealing their most prominent features, as if they hated that they couldn't lay him on his back and jump on him. In this area, only depending on the strong could help them live longer. Those women understood this principle well. In their thoughts, if they could have a night with Shi Yang, their lives would be secured, and they wouldn't need to worry about the pagans anymore. They had used all of their tricks. As long as they saw Shi Yang, they would become enthusiastic, making the other men glare with jealousy. Shi Yang didn't have much free time. He observed for a while and then sat down on the round platform in the center of the city. He started to concentrate his mind. The essence qi of Lin Meng and Nai Ruo was too much. The energy of the two true God Realm experts rolled torrentially into his acupuncture points, making them swollen and painful. While the essence qi was refined, he had to bear painful torture with a grimace. Fortunately, he had found the solution. Bing Qing Tong, Han Kui, Leng Danqing, and Shuang Yuzhu were all here. When he couldn't resist the violent surging negative force, just with a wink, the 4 beautiful snow ice flowers would help him vent out his lustful desire. That was why he didn't worry that the negative energy would turn around and attack him. At the same time, The 4 snow flowers would receive significant benefits from him. As they had just entered the true god realm, they hadn't accumulated enough energy. It would take them at least 10 years more to gather enough essence qi to reach the threshold of the next realm. Shi Yang had helped them take a big step forward. The overflowing massive, mysterious energy had been distributed to the 4 snow flowers and Long Zhu. The abundant remaining energy had improved his entire body to an unimaginable level. Even his star martial spirit had gained a great benefit from the mysterious energy. The essence qi ancient tree in his abdomen had all of its branches turned as translucent as jade, filled with condensed essence qi. He just needed another time of recognition to enter the true god realm. He had made up his mind. After things were done here, he would enter the Creator's divine pond right away to leap into the true god realm. Under people's efforts, formations, barriers, and restrictions everywhere in the city restored their functions. Even the collapsed outer city now had many ugly dunes of soil jutted here and there after receiving the energy. When Shi Yang descended from the round platform, he found that it was good to have many people working together. Everything worked out well. He didn't see anything that made him worried. At that moment, Yun Hao and Yu Wen Jiang came close to him with grim countenances. They told him that the ice and fire secret domain had fallen. This news didn't surprise him much. Since he knew the pagans had controlled the entrance, he could predict the situation. Shi Yang was still calm, just arching his brows. How many of your people are staying in there? Several thousand. Yun Hao smiled miserably. Low realm warriors or the families of the elders. They aren't capable of defending themselves. Yu Wen Jiang also wore a grim face, as his heart was filled with worries. We have no solution. Shi Yang kept silent for a while and then sighed. Press down your grief. Perhaps they were all killed. I can't help you. If you had stayed in the city center right at the beginning, it wouldn't have been that terrible. Yun Hao and Yu Wen Jiang were dispirited. They knew their assumptions were wrong, as they had put the trust in Lin Meng's team, which resulted in several thousands of their disciples burying themselves altogether. Shi Yang tried to comfort them for a while. Next, he released his soul consciousness to control the utmost 8 purgatory city and reorder the chaotic forces to wait for the next attack. After 1 hour of quietness, 2 grey cotton masses of clouds drifted towards them from the horizon, appearing outside the city center. After a while, Corpse Chief, Corpse Mount, and Corpse Sea, the Dark Clan, and Kunter also showed themselves, standing together with Bao Ao and Jieji. All human beings in the city center felt tense instantly, their faces changing drastically. Everybody knew their responsibility as they started preparing discreetly. Haha, we meet again. You aren't ordinary at all. You could defeat the 7 ancient factions, causing them a great loss. Bao Ao rose his voice and laughed. Little buddy, won't you come out to see your friends? Corpse Mount and Corpse Sea standing next to Corpse Chief also felt nervous, gazing at the city center. Don't go there. Yang Tian Emperor shouted. Di Shan, Li Zhengrong, and Bing Qing Tong started to ask him not to leave the city center. He was the soul of the city center. If the city lost its soul, it couldn't generate its most powerful attacks or defense. They were afraid that the pagans were just trying to entice Shi Yang. The moment he got out of the city, they would kill him immediately. After that, they would demolish the city and extinguish the light of human clan. Shi Yang frowned then nodded. I understand. Then, he turned into a beam of dim light, gliding above the wall, reaching the place where the disorderly energy of the utmost 8 purgatory city was hovering. He showed himself, smiling to Bao Ao's group. Hello. I wonder what you want to advise me for you to have traveled this far. I'm sorry, but the city's a mess right now. Forgive me for not inviting you to visit the city. If you want to find me for a drink, can we have it outside? Haha, good kid. I like you. Jieji patted his thigh, his eyes bright. Right when he finished, he disappeared into thin air. A moment later, Jieji appeared in the center of the utmost 8 purgatory city, as if he didn't care he was in the middle of danger. Jugs of garnet wine floated one by one in front of him. When he tore the seal, the enchanting smell of wine permeated the place, making people drunk. Come here. Come here. We should drink first. We won't talk any business. Jie extending his arm, and 3 jugs of wine flew towards Shiyang. Shiyang's cold face cracked a smile. All right. He took 1 step forward, as if he didn't know that dangers and the other alien tribes were waiting for the perfect chance to kill him. He walked until he was 3 meters away from Jie. 10 jugs of wine floated in the air between them. Each jug was as big as a jar of rice, emitting the intoxicating fragrance of good wine. Shiyang didn't wait for Jie to talk more. He grabbed a jug and drank it. In front of everybody, he faced up the sky to drink the liquor. His Adam's apple moved as he gulped audibly. At this moment, he looked like a boorish fella, who didn't know he was in danger. Jie was startled. He didn't think that this human kid could have such guts. He watched the young man with great interest. Gulp, gulp. Shiyang didn't say anything and just slugged like a cow drinking water. After around 10 seconds, he had finished a whole jug of wine. Shiyang bottomed up his bottle and talked to Jie, who was standing opposite to him. I didn't spill a drop. I didn't disappoint your good wine and goodwill, right? Jie beamed a smile, which then broadened into a wild laughter. Good. Enough heroic spirit. Haha, you kid, you're too bad. I like it. Pausing for a while, Jie stopped laughing, looking at him with a serious face. You are human, and I'm a demon. Shouldn't you be afraid that I would poison your wine to kill you? Shiyang cleaned the trickle of wine on the corner of his mouth and then laughed loudly. Oh yeah, I should. However, I've heard that the demon clan is always upright. You will never use shortcuts or wicked plans to deal with the enemies. That's why I dared to drink the wine. If Comoros gave me this bottle, I would never touch even a drop. Jie patted his thigh, his smile broader. He felt quite good when Shiyang was servile to him. Good. Straightforward enough. I like you. Then, Jie took a bottle and gulped right in front of Shiyang. He had no wave of energy surging around him, as if he hadn't put up any guard. Kill him. Kill him quickly. Many people in the city let out low shouts with great hope in their eyes. They all saw that Jie had no aura or waves of surging energy on his body, as if he weren't taking any precautions. If Shiyang attacked him now, at least, he could cause him to struggle or get hurt a little bit. Shut up. Yang Tian Emperor harumphed, glaring at those people. Most of them were the ones that had agreed to enter the city, the members of the 7 ancient factions and some small forces. They weren't too loyal, and their discrimination towards the alien tribes was deep. Yang Tian Emperor rolled his eyes while the other kept their mouths shut. They bowed down, and didn't dare to say anything. Drink, drink. Bao Ao laughed for a while and then came to them. He casually grabbed Jie's good wine and then slugged. Just like Jie, he was relaxed, as if he were visiting his friend's house. The other couldn't sense the feeling of daggers being drawn in this scene at all. Chapter 680, Demon Testing Needle. Chapter 680, Demon Testing Needle. Shiyang, Bao Ao, and Jie stood in the center of the utmost 8 purgatory city and drank as if they didn't see anyone else. The human clan in the city, along with the corpse clan, dark clan, and dark spirit clan outside the city, were all stunned, looking at the 3 of them drinking. 10 strong liquor jugs were drunk, and not even a single drop was spilled. We've finished Jie's wine, so shall we try mine? Bao Ao threw the empty bottle away, smiling brightly while looking at Shiyang. Shiyang was surprised, nodded and then smiled. We shouldn't consider one side and neglect the other side. You are my guest. We will do as you wish. Good. Bao Ao roared and then swung his left hand. 10 new jugs of wine lined up, as a special fragrance of liquor permeated the area. Shiyang didn't hesitate much. He grabbed a jug and drank crazily in front of everybody. Strong liquor flowed down his throat, blending with Jie's good wine in his stomach. When the 2 different liquors touched each other, it raised a furious heat in his internal organs. Shiyang was struck, as a streak of pain appeared in between his eyebrows. The blood in each of his vessels was boiling up, burning his entire body. Bao Ao and Jie didn't drink immediately. They were gazing at Shiyang without blinking, as a strange light flared in their eyes. At that moment, Shi Yang's body turned pink entirely. 2 faint flames emitted from his nostrils, which looked really terrifying. It seemed that he didn't feel pain. Under the attentive looks of the headmasters of the 2 ancient demon families, he pressed down the turbulence in his stomach and continued drinking, as if he didn't know about the change of his body. Bao Ao and Jie Ji studied him. Their eyes gradually brightened, as a divine light radiated immensely. After a long while, Bao Ao and Jie Ji exchanged looks. However, they didn't say anything but continued drinking. They looked a little bit strange, as if they had some deep thought in their heads. Is he crazy? Why is he drinking with the demon clan? In the city, Long Ying's small face was filled with an inexplicable surprise. She shook her head as she couldn't figure it out. She thought that Shi Yang was being stupid. Many people thought the same, but they didn't dare to utter their opinions. Since Yang Tian emperors were raking through them as if he would kill them immediately if they dared to show their discontentment. They just bit their lips to prevent their tongues from slipping. Outside the city, Kunter and Corpse Chief, together with the 3 Yama kings Abi, Hei Tian, and Hades, kept silent as they were allowing Bao Ao and Jie Ji to act strangely. They just frowned, looking at Shi Yang. It seemed they had established a secret agreement with Bao Ao. They knew what the others were doing, so they didn't hasten to take action. Corpse Mount and Corpse C stood next to Corpse Chief. The 2 of them had intelligence and the inheritance of their clan. As their power grew, they weren't dull anymore. After watching for a while, Corpse Mount asked, "Master, is he okay?" Corpse Chief was sitting on a massive coffin. He looked like a 10,000-year ancient mummy in the deep forest, with fur grown all over his body. His fingernails were 1 meter long. Corpse Chief glared at Corpse Mount and Corpse C, then shifted his look to Shi Yang, who was still drinking. He spoke up with his unique strident voice. "No wonder why you could befriend with him. This human isn't like the others. If the human clan's members are like him, we don't need to chase them to the dead end." Corpse Mount and Corpse C didn't understand much, still looking at their master with surprise. Corpse Chief didn't explain further. Shi Yang felt so hot inside as if his blood was burning. Mist diffused from his body, actually containing alcohol. He suddenly felt the mark on his forehead burning scorchingly. As the heat was burdening him, a strange energy generated from his boiling blood started to gather at the mark on his head. The mark he was trying to conceal became clear and uncontrollable. Shi Yang changed his face as he found that the black ribbon he used to cover his forehead was burning. Soon, this mark would be exposed. Shi Yang was worried. His blood was boiling torrentially. It seemed the blend of Jie Ji's and Bao Ao's liquors had created a magical change in his body, burning his blood, and pouring the blood qi into the mark. Shi Yang understood that Bao Ao and Jie Ji had done something related to the mark on his forehead. Bao Ao and Jie Ji scrutinized him, seeing the black ribbon melting on his head. Their looks became odder. "Shi Yang, come out and talk for a while. Don't worry. If Jie Ji and I are here, no one will dare to hurt you. We should find a place and talk, okay?" As Bao Ao considered it to be the right time, he grinned warmly. Jie Ji nodded, turning around and throwing a look at Kunter and the Dark Clan. "If anyone dares to touch you, I'll make him miserable. Don't worry. As long as Bao Ao and I are here, you will be safe." Bao Ao's and Jie Ji's voices resounded to every corner. Yang Tian Emperor's group could hear them clear and loud in the city center. People from the city center started to advise him loudly. Yang Tian Emperor, Yun Hao, Uwn Jiang and the others were telling him not to believe in the 2 demons. Bing Qing Tong's group of 4 women was even more flurried. Worries flooded their hearts. Only Qi Tian Oldie, Long Zhu didn't say anything. He just frowned, his face complicated. Shi Yang was dumbstruck. He furrowed his brows, pondered for a while, and then nodded with a red face. "Let's go." He threw a look over his shoulder and then shouted coldly. "No one's allowed to leave the city." Bing Qing Tong's group wanted to jump off the city to reach him. Hearing him, they didn't dare to act rashly. When interacting with other people, women should listen to their men to give them face. They had to keep this rule even if they didn't want to do so. Bing Qing Tong's group understood it well. Although they were worried about him, They had to listen to him. They came back to their locations with worries, praying for him to be safe and sound. Don't worry, I understand. Shi Yang beamed a smile to the four women. Bao Ao and Jie exchanged looks quietly. They left the utmost 8 purgatories city. Also, they tried to avoid the Dark Clan, the Corpse Clan, and the Dark Spirit Clan, going deep into the forest behind the city. Shi Yang followed them. After they stopped, he appeared right behind them. Shi Yang forced a smile while asking, "What did you give me to drink? Why do I feel as if my blood is boiling, making me dizzy?" Jie cracked a smile, then rolled his eyes at Shi Yang while scolding. "You stinky kid, don't show your contented smile to me. Bao Ao and I have treasured those jugs of wine for such a long time. Usually, we don't even dare to enjoy them. You have enraged me as you drank it all without being grateful." Bao Ao smiled and explained to him. "If you drink my and Jie's wine separately, they will bring you a marvelous effect. But, if you blend them, the effect will be stunning, you know? Haha. Well, I shouldn't explain the details. You can enjoy and feel it slowly. Of course, normal people won't be able to stand the mix of these 2 kinds of liquors. They will explode to death." Shi Yang discolored, almost jumping up from his spot. "I'm a normal human, too." "You aren't a normal human." Bao Ao and Jie gazed at him with a serious look on their faces. "Why am I not normal? If you were a normal human being, you should have exploded to death already. Unless, you were at the King God realm," Bao Ao replied seriously. His face showed that he wasn't joking. Shi Yang was scared. "You have the demon clan's bloodline in your body. Otherwise, do you think you could survive until this moment?" Jie laughed evilly. "I never expected that our demon clan could have an alien like you. Haha. Those human beings have submitted to you, right? Not bad. Although the process is somehow beyond my expectation, the results are all right. A demon clan's kid rules the humanity. Haha, I do want to see it. I can say that our demon clan is about to thrive again. It's destiny." Shi Yang was petrified. He finally confirmed that the blood in his body belonged to demon clan's bloodline. When he saw Bao Ao the first time, he had this vague feeling. Otherwise, Bao Ao would never let him stay alive. He would have killed him shortly, instead of leaving a mark on his neck. Jie rubbed his hands as he felt excited. He warmly patted Shi Yang's shoulder. "Don't worry. As long as you belong to our clan, no matter what happens, we'll protect you. Don't babble. First, we need to verify which branch he belongs to in our clan." Bao Ao frowned while his trembling fingers fumbled, taking out a silver needle. This silver needle was as long as a finger. With a close look, people would notice that it was hollow. The needle had some visible patterns on its body, which vaguely formed an ancient and exquisite devil formation. This demon testing needle could distinguish branches of demon clan using blood. After so many years, the demon clan's bloodline was scattered widely, and many families had gone extinct. Many other races had their blood mixed with the demon clans, that only the demon testing needle could differentiate. "We don't need that mark anymore. I'll help you erase it." Bao Ao laughed, putting his fingertip on the mark on Shi Yang's neck. Then, he gently wiped the mark away. Shi Yang felt an insignificant pain in his neck. He checked and found nothing there. "Come here. Drip 1 drop of your blood, and let us check which branch you belong to." "Haha. A bold fella like you should belong to a brave and strong family. I'm sure about it." Jie laughed as he was so excited. Bao Ao also looked at him. Shi Yang kept silent for a while and then nodded. "All right, I also want to know." Then, a drop of garnet blood flew out from his fingertip, falling onto the demon testing needle. Chapter 681, That's How We Work. Chapter 681, That's How We Work. Crack. The demon testing needle shattered. The drop of ruby blood fell, then rolled on the ground. However, it didn't seep into the ground but revolved, releasing a tremendous aura. Shi Yang paled slightly. The drop of blood he had squeezed off his finger was the immortal blood. The imposing blood aura it carried was condensed from the enormous energy. Also, This blood was different from the blood in his body. He had condensed 10 drops of immortal blood, which wasn't as much as even 1% of the blood in his body. However, it contained a tremendous, imposing energy. He wanted to use this immortal blood to gain the acceptance of Bao Ao and Jie. He wanted to make a good relationship with the demon clan to protect the Yang family and his human members. The 5 alien tribes were too intimidating. If the situation weren't too harsh, he didn't want to turn his back to the 5 alien tribes and risk his life against them. If he could borrow the force, he would never deny the chance. In his eyes, the immortal blood perhaps would be the key to connect him and Bao Ao, Jie. Thus, to gain the acceptance he didn't use his blood, but a drop of the immortal blood. He could never imagine that the immortal blood drop would break the demon testing needle. This had frightened him, as he thought that perhaps he had done it the wrong way. Shi Yang kept silent. He was discreetly urging the energy in his body to get ready in case he was attacked. He knew the reason why Bao Ao and Jie had treated him well and hadn't killed him yet. These two had considered him the fellow of their clan. That's why they had protected him. If he weren't the member of their clan, Shi Yang believed that Bao Ao and Jie would never show him mercy. Their attack would be more furious than ever. Shi Yang felt tense, and he was secretly prepared. If Bao Ao and Jie were hostile, he would run away immediately and never hesitate. In his eyes, Bao Ao and Jie were more dangerous than Long Zhu. At least, they were at the third sky of True God realm. In this place, if these two attacked him, he could only run away to survive. When his energy started to move, his boiling blood was more blazing. Under the effect of the liquors, his blood seemed to be refined. They even proactively took his essence qi to turn it into immortal blood. This finding startled him more. He sensed for a while and found his blood flowing faster in his vessels, as if someone had forced it to move. Indeed, his boiling blood had a miraculous change under the effect of the wine. Shi Yang changed his face while being alert, looking at Bao Ao and Jie. Bao Ao and Jie seemed like lightning had struck on them, standing dully on their spots. They stooped, looking at the pieces of the demon testing needle, and the drop of immortal blood. They had a stunned complexion, as if someone had cast the body-fixing technique on them. Shi Yang was also astounded. He frowned, then used his soul to urge the drop of immortal blood on the ground to get back into his body through the cut on his fingertip. Bao Ao's and Jie's eyes moved along with the immortal blood, seeing it entering Shi Yang's body. The two suddenly shivered. A terrifying light radiated from their eyes, which was like real several meters long ribbons. Their dazzling line of sight fell on Shi Yang's finger, giving him a burning pain, as if he had put his finger into a flaming liquid. Bao Ao and Jie still couldn't utter a word, their faces looking frightening. Light sparkled in their eyes like lines of fire. Shi Yang didn't know about their thoughts. He discreetly stepped backward, frowned while putting up his guard. What's going on? Why did the demon testing needle get broken? Bao Ao and Jie trembled slightly. Their mouths twitched, as if they could finally react. They exchanged looks and retrieved the light in their eyes. Their faces looked as if they had just discovered a whole new continent. They seemed to be petrified. They wanted to say something, but didn't know how to start it, which made them clumsily funny. After a long while, Bao Ao stopped his awkward action first. He took several deep breaths, gave some dry coughs, and then said, "Shi Yang, agree with us about one thing. Come with us to this place." Jie looked at him with longing eyes. Shi Yang was astounded. He pondered and then asked, "So my bloodline is verified?" Bao Ao and Jie smiled. Their thick-skinned face bloomed like a flower, nodding continually. "Which branch of the demon clan?" asked Shi Yang curiously. "Come with us. You will get it naturally. Ha ha. We'll help you solve the problem here. We'll make the other clans withdraw. We won't disturb your place. How about that?" Jie smiled until his eyes got as narrow as a thin line. He was smiling and begging. "You have to go there. Without you, it's not good." Shi Yang was astounded for a while. "I can't leave now. I need time." He was half a step into the True God realm, so he wanted to use the Creator's divine pond to break through the True God realm first. Then only he would think what to do next. No problem. We will wait for you outside. Yeah, we will protect you guys. Once you're done, you will leave with us. Bao Ao said generously. My men will help you defend. You don't need to worry about the stuff here. I can send my men to you to use. Jeji also showed his goodwill. Shi Yang felt awkward looking at these two bold leaders, but he didn't know what they wanted to do. He thought about it carefully and then nodded. Okay, after I've arranged everything, I'll go with you. Yeah, where do you want to go? You'll get to know. Don't worry. We're not going to harm you. Maybe, you will have a new magical encounter, I guess. Bao Ao patted his chest affirmatively. All right, Shi Yang agreed begrudgingly. What Bao Ao and Jeji had offered him was too generous. He could avoid the fight with the 5 alien tribes, and, from their attitudes, Shi Yang understood that they could even fight the other tribes for him. This change was inexplicable to him. All right, you should solve your stuff first. We will help you resolve the other things. Bao Ao swung his hand as if fighting against the other tribes wasn't a hard task to him. Shi Yang was suspicious. However, he followed them back to the city center. Still, he didn't know what the two cunning demon clan's leaders wanted to do. After he got back to the city, he saw that Bao Ao and Jeji were still standing there. They fiddled with the fragments of the demon testing needle in their hands. Looking at the crystal pieces, they couldn't hold their joy anymore, as if they had found a large treasure. No matter what we could have thought, we would never have thought that he belongs to that race. Haha, I didn't expect that race still has a generation of descendants. God does favor our clan. Long afterward, Bao Ao sighed, but his face was joyful. He was trembling. Who could have thought about it? Jeji was also stirred up. I thought it would be super hard to enter the first demon area. Haha, with him, we have the key already. It's time for our demon clan to raise. If that race still has the bloodline and inheritance, we still have the hope of our prosperity. It's too good to be true. We should solve his problems to ease his worries. Bao Ao pondered for a while and then smiled. As long as we protect him, he could have enough time to grow in this divine great land. Jeji nodded heavily. They exchanged looks and grinned, then disappeared into thin air as if they could tear space. In the next moment, Bao Ao and Jeji appeared next to Corpse Chief, Kunter, and the Dark Clan. Comoros had appeared with changed makings. He was filled with confidence, as a light sparkled radiantly in his eyes. How is it? Asked Kunter. He belongs to my demon clan, it's no doubt. Otherwise, he wouldn't return safely to the city. Haha, Bao Ao laughed and replied. Which branch of your demon clan? With the demon testing needle, I think it's easy to verify him, right? Comoros frowned, as he felt really annoyed inside. He wanted to kill that brat. But, if they could prove he was one of the demon clan's members, Bao Ao and Jeji would protect him, which made it hard to kill him then. Haha, which branch? Excuse us, but we can't tell you. You just need to know that he belongs to our demon clan. Bao Ao was still smiling, but his eyes were cold and sharp. Those lowly people are his servants. Jeji and I have agreed that since Shi Yang's our fellow, he has the right to live in the divine great land. Those people are his slaves, so they can live too. This is our opinion. What do you think? Comoros shouted. No. When we came here, we made it clear that if he belongs to the demon clan, he can live. But those humans have to die. Corpse Chief of the Corpse Clan, Kunter of the Dark Spirit Clan, and the 3 Yama Kings of the Dark Clan all wore grimaced faces. Apparently, they didn't agree with Bao Ao and Jeji's solution. If you don't agree with us, it's okay, Jeji grinned fiendishly. If you want to take action, besides the human clan, you will have to deal with the demon clan too. Oh right, the monster clan is with him now as well. Are you sure you want to do this? As soon as he finished, Comoros and Kunter paled indignantly. Rage rose in their hearts, as they were gazing at Bao Ao and Jeji with red eyes. That's how the demon clan works. Talk to our fists. Bao Ao rose his head arrogantly as he didn't put in mind the other's objection. If you aren't so pleased with our opinion, we can always fight. You will face humans, monsters, and us. Decide yourself. Good. I will remember that. Comoros clenched his jaw and then shouted. I don't believe you can keep swaggering. I want to see if you can protect him forever. Then, Comoros left along with his clansmen from the Ghostmark clan. People of the Corpse clan, the Dark clan, and the Dark Spirit clan coldly looked at Bao Ao and Jieji for a while. However, they didn't choose to attack them directly. Eventually, they took their men and left. Chapter 682, A New World. Chapter 682, A New World. Shi Yang returned to the city center with a red face. He sat down immediately, his face slightly fierce. Yang Tian Emperor, Cao Qiu Dao, Di Shan, and Yu Ru gathered around him instinctively, looking at him bewilderedly. I'm all right, Shi Yang beamed a reluctant smile. It's not like what you thought. Bao Ao and Jieji didn't hurt me. Anyway, my body is a little bit strange. I need to adjust my state for a while. Then, he closed his eyes and started to urge his blood and qi to scatter the liquor's special effect, and blend it with his blood little by little. That liquor helped him condense the immortal blood. This discovery surprised him cheerily. He would never let this chance slip away. Drops of wine burned his stomach, making him redden, as if he had a furnace in his body. Heat waves rippled furiously from him. Although Bing Ching Tong's group was worried about him, the technique they had cultivated was the Ice Jade technique, which made it hard for them to adapt well to heat. The four women had sweat all over their bodies, so they had to step backward, standing far from Shi Yang. As Yang Tian Emperor's team didn't know what had happened or what was going on, they could only watch over him, and they didn't even care about what was happening in the world out there. In their eyes, Shi Yang being safe and sound was the most crucial matter. If he met anything unexpected, this city would be destroyed quickly. The refugees who had just entered the city didn't know anything. They all felt worried and resentful, but they didn't dare to say a word. It was the most critical time, when the pagans were still watching them as if watching their praise. Shi Yang was the owner of this city, but he seemed to not care about the situation. This made them worried about the sudden ambush of those pagan tribes. Yun Hao, Yu Wn Jiang, Di Shan, Yi Tian Mo, and the others were floating near the edge of the city to watch over the alien tribes, in case they made a sudden move. It happened fast, and this guarding group hadn't prepared for this situation. They were all bewildered, not knowing what was going on. The alien tribes retreated. The leaders of the Dark Clan, Corpse Clan, Dark Spirit Clan, and the Ghostmark paled as if they had swallowed flies. They took their men and left quietly. Yun Hao and Yu Wn Jiang gawked, dropping their jaws. What's going on? Yun Hao turned around to look at the Fighting Union's hegemon standing behind him. They came from 10,000 miles away to eradicate the human clan, right? Why did they withdraw at the most critical moment? The forces the five great tribes had shown them was much beyond Lin Meng's five ancient factions. If they attacked, no one could be sure that the city would stand unharmed. Yun Hao and Yu Wn Jiang were always tense. They had prepared well for a bloody battle. However, at this moment, the four tribes had left, leaving only the demon tribe, who seemed to be throwing a big party over there instead of attacking the human beings in the city. Did they still look like a furious enemy? Yun Hao and Yu Wn Jiang felt like their brains were so small that they were unusable now. The pagans withdrew. They have withdrawn. Some leaders of the smaller forces stood on the city wall and observed. They couldn't help but shout, as if they were celebrating the new year. Their faces were filled with happiness and hope. The voices echoed in the city, giving the ones who were worried about their coming death a heavy dose of tranquilizer. They hugged each other while celebrating, as they had survived a disaster. They had thought that they would be killed tragically by the heartless pagans. However, the alien tribes had left before the two sides engaged in a battle. What was going on? Everybody was so happy that they were astounded. However, they were also suspicious as they didn't know what had happened. Everybody understood that the strange operation of the alien tribes was related to Shi Yang. However, he was meditating with his eyes closed. No one dared to disturb him, so no one could know what had happened. The leaders of the monster clan hovering in the sky had prepared well to fight with the alien tribes. Seeing the significant change, they were startled, as they couldn't make head or tail of it. Oh, no fighting? What did Shi Yang tell the two demons? Why did they leave? Yang Long grabbed his flaming hair, but he couldn't figure it out. Ghost knows. Shuelai shook his head continually. He seemed a little bit disappointed. The energy in my body's surging. I'm prepared to kill. F*ck it. No fight. Disappointed. I'm so disappointed. Yongtian Emperor and Cao Qiu Dao glared at Shi Yang with great surprise. In their hearts, Shi Yang had told the leaders of the demon clan something which created such a great reaction. However, they couldn't think of what had made the alien tribes withdraw. Many young people in the city were screaming and yelling happily, as if they had received a new life. The heavy stone pressing on their hearts was lifted. At this moment, they vaguely thought that as long as they went with Shi Yang, they would survive well in the divine Great Land, without worrying about the alien tribes. They could imagine the tragic end of those who had left. This small city was the only shelter for the human clan in the divine Great Land. Once they could get in, they could survive. If they got ejected, the alien tribes would kill them shortly. They suddenly felt so lucky that they had a wide vision to not follow the others and leave this place. After an unknown period, while people were high with the relief and happiness, Shi Yang woke up. He grinned and then told them, "If you guys still have energy, we need to rebuild the outer city." Yongtian Emperor and Li Zhengrong were dumbstruck, looking at him. "Demon clan's still out there," said Li Zhengrong. "It's okay. I'll ask them to stay out of our sight." Shi Yang stood up from the round platform, strolling towards the city wall. He talked to Bao Ao and Jieji, who were partying. "If you guys want to drink and have fun, please move further. My people are scared of you. Ha ha. F*ck you, stinky kid. Do we obstruct your eyes here?" Jieji laughed and scolded him. He swung his hands. "Everybody, stay away. They don't like us. We should go now." Strong warriors of the demon tribe wore black armor. They were all as cold as ice mountains, with a bloodthirsty aura, which made people be scared of them naturally. They stood up and rode their demonic beasts away under Jieji's yelling. Bao Ao beamed a forced smile talking to Bo Ruo and Guda Sai, "Tell our fellows to retreat further." "Yeah, 50 miles then. Remember to drag those dead bodies with you." "Sir," Bo Ru wanted to say something, but she didn't finish. Bao Ao swung his hand, talking faintly, "Don't ask much. Later on, you will know what we've done today will give our demon clan a new future." Bo Ru and Guda Sai were struck. They nodded and said nothing, then took their men to leave. Many demon tribes members were skeptical. Hearing Bao Ao's words, they calmed down. Although they didn't know the real reason, they understood it was a critical matter, and they chose to believe in their headmaster's vision. Many people in the city came to the city wall, looking at the place where the demon clan was gathering. They saw that the demonic beasts the clansmen were riding had carried the dead human bodies away. Some were actually dismembering and swallowing the corpses. The horrible sounds from them sent shivers down people's spines. Some women paled, as if they were about to throw up at any moment. They could see clearly that those bodies belonged to the ones who stayed in the ice and fire secret domain, or the ones who had chosen to leave. They knew many of them, and there were some with whom they had had drinks with, or discussed martial technique together. At this moment, their acquaintances were the stiff corpses, which became the food for the beasts. At this moment, they could see clearly what awaited them if they weren't a part of the city. Perhaps, they would be one of those dead bodies. There was only a wall separating them from that miserable fates. They were still alive, but their friends were dead now with incomplete bodies. This was the most tragic result they could imagine. They suddenly felt grateful to Shi Yang from the bottom of their hearts. Everybody understood that without Shi Yang and this city, they would have only one terrifying consequence: even their bones wouldn't be left. A cold current diffused from the bottom of their hearts, making them shiver, and melting the happiness they had just gained. Yongtian Emperor, Di Shan, Li Zhengrong, Cao Qiu Dao, and Yun Hao had experienced many tragic situations. They understood how cruel the reality was. The moment the others left, they could predict their fate. Hence, they weren't so surprised. However, the two ancient families of the demon clan had followed Shi Yang's words and retreated without any hesitation. This surprised them a lot. Many people stood there bewilderedly, seeing the demon clan leaving. After a while, when all the clansmen of the demon clan had left, they shifted their skeptical looks to Shi Yang, hoping the man would clarify their doubts. Under their hot gazes, Shi Yang was calm, and just beamed a faint smile. Yeah, something's changed indeed. However, I can't talk much now. Haha. You just need to know that the alien tribes won't trouble us for a short time. Shi Yang knew it wasn't the right time to disclose his demon bloodline. Otherwise, people in this city would be extreme and start overthinking. He wanted to discreetly change them and make them accept the fact, which was how the tribes would live together in the future. Yang Tian Emperor's team nodded, and didn't chase him furthermore. We need to rebuild the city. Within 10 days, we need to restore the outer city and make it stronger. Shi Yang rose his voice until he was shouting. Pausing for a while, he added, for yourself. Everybody gladly followed him. Chapter 683, Advance Together. Chapter 683, Advance Together. A new outer city jutted out from the ground after 7 days. This new city wall was more imposing, seeming like a never-ending mountain range. Although it wasn't even, the lowest point was around 100 meters high. This radiant silver city seemed to be made of metal, standing firmly while diffusing a cold aura that never dispersed. Under the cooperation of the Human Clan, Monster Clan, Dark Devil Clan, and the Winged Clan, the new city wall seemed invincible. Carved formations decorated the wall, bringing out a tremendous energy. The day the outer city was finished, many humans felt happy, as they believed that this city was their new home. They had to protect it at any cost to preserve the last piece of land of the Human Clan. As the owner of the city, Shi Yang had joined the construction from the beginning to the end. He had concentrated on carving the formation and refining the liquid steel that made this city wall more rigid than the hardest metal. Yang Long, Shui Lai, glacial armor giant alligator, nine-headed bird, and silver-winged sky wolf had used their monster forms to hit the city wall to test its endurance. Although the impact had crashed their armors, it left no cracks in the wall. The two headmasters of the demon clan had tried the defensive ability of the city wall discreetly. They were astounded to see that if they wanted to smash this city down, they would have to pay a big price. Everybody had their spirit boosted. They had survived the disaster, and they felt lucky that they made a wise decision to not leave the city. Alien tribes were still hunting humans in the perpetual night forest. People who didn't belong in this city had become their targets. After 7 days, most of the human warriors had been killed, becoming wandering ghosts under the pagan's slaughter, or the fertilizer for their sacrificial altar. The number of people who could survive was pathetically little. In the outer city, all formations and barriers worked well. Qi Tian Oldie Long Zhu had restored half of his power. The city had Yun Hao and Yu Wn Jiang at the second sky of True God Realm, and Di Shan, Li Zhangrong, and Yu Ru at the first sky of True God Realm. With this force in the city and the city's defensive ability, Shi Yang felt more determined. He believed that even if the 4 alien tribes returned and attacked his city, it wouldn't be any easy for them. Finally, he could exhale in relief. Next, he had to prepare for the big business of his realm advancement. Shi Yang called Long Zhu and Yun Hao and explained part of the secrets of the utmost 8 purgatories city. He arranged everything and then left quietly with Yang Tian Emperor. When he got out of the city, Bao Ao and Jie Ji recognized immediately. They stepped forward and asked for his opinion. Give me half a month. After that, I will go with you guys. Shi Yang told them and then took Yang Tian Emperor to the Creator's divine pond. Bao Ao and Jie Ji had to wait for so many years, so the period of 15 more days wasn't too long for them. They gladly agreed. Near the Creator's divine pond, Shi Yang and Yang Tian Emperor smiled, looking at the platform in the middle of the miraculous pond. With this pond, we can have more true God realm warriors. Not long afterward, our general competence will increase fast. Later on, even if Qin Jiu Chuan, Guan Ho, and Lu Miao haven't died, they would never replace us in the human clan. Yang Tian Emperor felt relaxed, as a glorious light sparkled in his eyes. Currently, the Yang family was prosperous like they had never been before, much more than when they were in the Endless Sea. Although the Yang family was the overlord of the Endless Sea, its structure was small, which was insignificant in the eyes of the experts in the divine Great Land. However, it was different today. They were in most mysterious perpetual night forest of the divine Great Land, building the main line of the human clan. Today, they were the future of the human clan. The Cow family, the Dark Devil clan, the Winged clan, the Fighting Union, and the Radiant God cult, together with the small forces, had gathered in the Yang family, which was a situation he had never dared to imagine. However, everything came true now. The Yang family had become the owner of the utmost 8 purgatories city. All people who stayed here, no matter they belonged to the 7 alliances or the small forces, had to follow the Yang family's arrangement. The power and the force of the Yang family had leaped to a new peak they had never seen before. All of this was thanks to Shi Yang, the young man he had picked up from the quiet cloudland. Looking at Shi Yang in front of him, Yang Tian Emperor was extremely proud, thinking that bringing Shi Yang from the quiet cloudland here was the best decision he had ever made in his whole life. Great-grandpa, you should go first, Shi Yang chuckled, taking out the soul-gathering pearl. He sent the bead to the platform to release the crystal-clear soul energy. The soul-gathering pearl had collected a large amount of soul power from Ling Meng and Nai Ruo. The soul energy it had refined was translucent and condensed. Shi Yang felt pleased on seeing it. After observing the soul energy a little bit, Shi Yang saw that it was enough for 10 warriors to enter the true God realm easily without any risks. No, I'm not hurried. Yang Tian Emperor shook his head and smiled. The 2 demons are still waiting for you. You should break through to the true God realm first. It's easy to talk with them then. Moreover, if something unexpected happens, you would already be in the true God realm, which will be a tranquilizer to the utmost 8 purgatories city. You are more important than me. You should go first. Shi Yang was surprised. He pondered for a while and considered that it was logical. If he used the cultivation base of True God Realm to control the utmost 8 purgatory city, he could advance the power of the formations and barriers in the city by 1 more level. This city would become tremendously strong and would better protect his people. From this point, he had a bigger value than Yang Tian Emperor. He didn't deny, smiled, and said, "Then, I'll get in there first. Great-grandpa, please watch over me. I will reach the True God Realm quickly. Little Yang, you want to know how that little girl is, don't you? She has entered the chaotic space basin. I guess she is more likely to die than stay alive. Do you still want to use the immortal blood?" Yang Tian Emperor frowned. The immortal blood could see what the user's close acquaintance had experienced. As long as the other's realm was lower or equal to his, Shi Yang could use the immortal blood to know the location and current situation of that person. He hastened to enter the true God realm also to check how Xia Xinyang was. Shi Yang knew what had happened in the ice and fire secret domain from Bao Ao and Jie Ji. He totally agreed with Xia Xinyang when she resolutely decided to enter the chaotic space basin to avoid the alien slaughter. He believed that if he were in the same situation, he would have made the same decision. Xia Xinyang had the understanding of the martial path of a King God Realm expert. Shi Yang thought that she would be alright even if she were in the chaotic space basin. However, he was still worried about her. That's why he wanted to use the immortal blood to see her whereabouts. However, Xia Xinyang had reached the true God realm, and he was just in the spirit realm. If he forced himself to process the reading, he would get hurt. Only if he reached the true God realm would using the immortal blood vaguely show him whether Xia Xinyang's soul had vanished or not. To him, it was enough. Yes, I always worry about her. Haha. She took me to the Endless Sea. She took care of me well. When we were in the Endless Sea, she had never done anything to be ashamed of. I know what happened with the Xia family and Xia Qinghu. However, T isn't related to her, Shi Yang smiled. Yang Tian Emperor frowned, but her grandpa. We didn't do anything to him. We don't know whether he's alive or not. I think she would be alright. Shi Yang smiled begrudgingly. He pulled himself together, then concentrated and washed away the chaotic thoughts like gossamer in his head. Yang Tian Emperor wanted to say something, but he noticed Shi Yang's bright eyes and his calmed-down aura, and knew that Shi Yang had started the process. Yang Tian Emperor didn't talk more. He moved away and sat down cross-legged to protect Shi Yang. Shi Yang floated like a lily water pad, then slowly landed on the spiritual platform in the center of the divine pond. He sat down, then closed his eyes and let his soul sublimate. His sea of consciousness settled like the mirror of his consciousness. Light rippled from the top-grade essence crystals scattered around the place, pouring into the spiritual platform from the special ditches to supply energy for the magical formation. Yang Tian Emperor observed to see the changes of the divine pond. Heavenly Demon Mountain Range, Vault of Heaven Sea, Endless Sea. This place had the endless mountain range where many demon beasts gathered in the endless sea. It was also the forbidden area of the human clan. Strong beasts wandered here and there year-around. Even when the martial spirit palace was at their peak time, they had never dared to trespass this area. The sun, moon, and stars shone over a 10,000 meters high mountain, jutting to the sky, as if it wanted to connect the sun, moon, and stars. Boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden, many head-splitting explosions reverberated from this grand mountain. An energy wave flooded the area, expanding everywhere from the mountain. Crack, crack, crack. Wherever the energy wave washed over, mountains collapsed one by one. This endless mountain range seemed to cave in terrifyingly. Under the shining light of sun, moon, and stars, the energy wave had peeled off the surface layer of rock, revealing the true shape of this mountain. Dazzling massive pillars with many colors shot up to the sky. Each pillar was at least several thousand meters tall, with many patterns and drawings in the old style of the monster clan. Under the bright sky, it radiated shiningly. It turned out there were so many giant pillars hiding in this endless mountain range. These pillars were scattered thickly in every corner of the Heavenly Demon Mountain Range, creating a massive ancient formation of the monster clan. After the rock layer was slid away, an inexplicably massive ancient formation was exposed at the 10,000-meter-high mountain in the center of the place. This formation was supported by 7 ferocious monster hands. Each monster hand was around 10 mu. A fierce, cold aura diffused from them, while the monster scriptures drawn on the palms sparkled. 7 monster hands supported a Star of David formation, where some tiny figures of the beast were sitting. From a close look, those were the Ghost Hunter, the devouring gold silkworm, and the king of demonic insects. At this moment, they seemed to receive some ancient inheritance of the monster clan, taking in the energy and powers from the giant pillars of the demonic formation around them. Chapter 684, The Seal of Upanishad of the Lasting Mark. Chapter 684, The Seal of Upanishad of the Lasting Mark. At the bottom of the crystal clear lake, Shi Yang sat neatly on the spiritual platform in the middle of the mysterious ancient formation with a calm face. His profound soul consciousness matched perfectly with the aura of this divine pond. Unknowingly, he fell into a deep dream where he felt his soul had departed his body. His consciousness bobbed without a target, such that he couldn't gather it into an effective and precise thought. Lines of thick energy reached to the center of the divine pond everywhere. Gradually, the life-original fluid and the soul-washing divine water in the spiritual platform were stirred up, and the translucent soul energy diffused. Different colored magical energies that couldn't blend with each other gathered and twirled around his body beautifully. When these significant energies fluctuated and entered his body through his pores, they gradually flowed towards his brains, accumulating bit by bit in his sea of consciousness. His host soul was sitting neatly in the center of the sea of consciousness like his real body was doing in reality. He was calmly waiting to connect the energies with his flows of soul consciousness. The 5-colored chi started to diffuse in his sea of consciousness, blending with his flows of soul consciousness, making them float towards his host soul. Shi Yang's sea of consciousness started to drain as all beams of his soul consciousness were twined around the host soul, turning it into an illuminated object with magical soul fluctuations. The scattered energy of heaven and earth that was rolling above the platform was attracted, pouring into his host soul like waves of the surging tide. It made his host soul tremble. He couldn't even gather his thoughts. The host soul kept the Upanishads of his martial spirits, which he had comprehended over the recent years. It also contained the death and life seal intent domain, the miraculous star energy, and space power. The three different powers were washed in his host soul. After each time of washing, they were refined and cleaned, giving Shi Yang a new level of cognition of the three energies' mysteries. A flame sparkled in his host soul. This flame was bright silver, appearing like a flickering flame at his glabella, bouncing continually. It was the 9 serenities' soul-devouring flame. Under the washing of countless types of mysterious and indescribable energies of the antiquity time, this heaven flame was dancing, slowly emerging from his glabella. In the life field of the host soul, the 3 Upanishads of the death and life seal, star, and space, had become 3 fingernail-sized dots. They were shimmering, carrying the subtle magical intent domains, which could be deemed as miracles in the universe. When a warrior was breaking to the true God realm, while he was using his host soul to condense the God soul, all energy Upanishads he had comprehended would leap up to another level. During the process of condensing the God soul, while the energies of heaven and earth were washing the host soul, the warrior could further understand the energies he had, making it the foundation of his true God realm. After many years of walking on the martial path, Shi Yang had practiced many things. However, only the 3 kinds of energies, including the death and life seal, the star, and space energies could generate the seal of Upanishad in his host soul. This spoke of the fact that Shi Yang had totally controlled these 3 energies, which he could use to dedicate himself to progress. Regarding the other techniques and powers, Shi Yang didn't have a good grasp of their essence, so he couldn't create the Upanishad seal in his host soul. The Upanishad seal could be deemed the most precious asset of a warrior. Once it could fuse with the God soul, it could bloom gloriously in the future, giving the warrior access to a wider universe. As long as the God soul wasn't destroyed, the power that created the seal of Upanishad would never vanish. If a warrior wanted to reincarnate, the power that created his trace of Upanishad would be imparted to his next incarnation. At the same time, the seal of Upanishad was also a basic foundation to generate the martial spirit. A strong warrior could use his bloodline to bestow his seal of Upanishad. Taking Shi Yang as an example, if he could successfully condense the God soul this time, when he reached a higher realm in the future and grasped the secret of inheritance, he could impart the Upanishad of star, death and life, and space, to his grandchildren, increasing the success rate of these 3 powers' inheritance. It was rumored that the dark magnetic noxious mist had the crystal-clear God soul of some warrior who had died a long time ago with the seal of Upanishad, the most precious attainment of that warrior in his whole life. Only the powers that could create the seal of Upanishad could fuse with the God soul, and it would never vanish when the body was destroyed. And, only the seal of Upanishad could be preserved when memories faded and disappeared. Unless the life seal were eradicated, the seal of Upanishad would exist together with the life seal eternally. The generation of the Upanishad seal was mysterious. No one could understand its true principle. It was hard to sense this process under normal circumstances. Only when the warrior was breaking through a major realm, it could flash shortly. Today, Shi Yang had 3 seals of Upanishad in his head, including the death and life, star, and space. These 3 seals had emerged in his host soul's brain unknowingly. Usually, a normal warrior had to understand a seal of Upanishad to the acme to step into the true God realm and condense the God soul. But Shi Yang's case was different. Using the Creator's divine pond, he had got through a shortcut. If one of the 3 seals of Upanishad he had could be understood to the peak, he could use the Creator's divine pond and break through to the true God realm based on that Upanishad. Bing Ching Tong, Han Kui, Di Shan, and Yi Tian Mo had used one kind of Upanishad seal to successfully enter the true God realm. However, Shi Yang's 3 seals of Upanishad were miraculously balanced. His understanding of the 3 powers had advanced perfectly together. None of them were too profound or too weak compared to the others. So, when he was stepping in the true God realm, condensing his God soul, such an experience had been gained. There was no focus. Even the divine pond didn't know which power it should focus on to improve one of Shi Yang's Upanishad seals. And, at this moment, Shi Yang was bewildered that he couldn't use his soul consciousness to guide the pond. This situation was marvelously strange. It took place quietly. The others could only see the pond steadily urge and pour energy, soul-washing divine water, life original fluid, and crystal clear soul energy to the spiritual platform continually. At the same time, the top-grade essence crystals scattering outside the divine pond were inundating it with energy, as if they would never stop until they could create something miraculous. The three powers of death and life, star, and space were washed and improved altogether. He didn't know why and how it was happening, so he just tried to transform the three seal of Upanishad at the same time. This had slowed down his breaking through process, much slower than Yi Tianmo's team. To improve the three seals of Upanishad at the same time required a huge amount of energy and the power of the entire divine pond, much more than the amount spent for the previous users. Gradually, three different kinds of energies emitted from the spiritual platform. The death and life intent domain, star mysteries, and the ever-changing space appeared altogether above the platform. Shi Yang was condensing his god soul. However, Yang Tian Emperor felt worried beside the divine pond. He had been walking back and forth restlessly, his face gloomy. Yang Tian Emperor had seen Li Zhengrong's group entering the true god realm. The energy waves that the divine pond had generated at that time weren't the same as in Shi Yang's case now, not more than 1/10. Time flew by quietly. Unknowingly, it had been 3 months. In a normal case, this period was enough for 3 people to generate their god souls and enter the true god realm. To Shi Yang, it seemed he had just begun. Yang Tian Emperor became more agitated. Day after day, his anxiety grew bigger. It seemed that the top-grade essence crystals scattered outside the pond weren't enough. Many top-grade essence crystals, which used to be as beautiful as diamonds, had turned ash-gray after their energy had been used up completely. Seeing the essence crystals being consumed massively, Yang Tian Emperor's concern grew bigger. However, he didn't know how to help Shi Yang in these circumstances. Until Yi Changfeng came. After 3 months, many people in the city finally recognized the unusual situation. They asked him to go and check. Seeing Yi Changfeng, Yang Tian Emperor asked him to bring all of the essence crystals from the outer city and the city center here. Afterward, when he transported almost 10,000 pieces of essence crystal to the pond, Yang Tian Emperor and Yi Changfeng then got busy replacing the used ones. With the new energy supply, the creator's divine pond became normal. However, good things never lasted long. After 2 more months, the 3 energies of Upanishad in the spiritual platform became clearer. At the same time, cracks appeared in many corners of the divine pond. Some curves of the formation seemed to be about to explode at any minute. The creator's divine pond had been built by experts with supernatural powers and many rare materials. When those materials shattered, it meant the energy that the platform had to bear was so much that it cracked the pond. Yang Tian Emperor became edgier, but he had no solution. Even Shi Yang couldn't understand the mysteries of his creator's divine pond. How could he help with this situation? He had no way to protect or repair the pond. He could only observe and try protecting Shi Yang carefully. The only thing that assured his mind was that the spiritual platform was still working. There was no sign of operation failure yet. Time flew by hurriedly. After 3 more months, besides the spiritual platform floating in the middle of the creator's divine pond, the other materials that formed the exquisite formations and barriers had become the accessories for the place, with no energy fluctuating from them. It seemed that all the energy had been drawn to create Shi Yang's god soul, helping him enter the true god realm. At this moment, Yang Tian Emperor could see that the creator's divine pond had been completely damaged. In this era, no one could fix it. The chance for him to break through the next realm was cut off accidentally. Yang Tian Emperor didn't worry about himself but Shi Yang. Anyway, he felt lucky that the platform was still working. The 3 energies moved above the platform like 3 invisible giant dragons fighting with each other. Yang Tian Emperor had to stay further away, as he couldn't bear the energy impact from these 3 powers. Time flew fast. After another 2 months, the spiritual platform started to have many hairline cracks, as if it could shatter at any minute. When Yang Tian Emperor felt like his heart was hung on a thread, Biting his tongue anxiously, the platform suddenly quieted down. Shi Yang, who was still sitting on the platform, gradually woke up. Yang Tian Emperor was struck. Joy sparkled in his eyes as he smiled dumbly. Yang Tian Emperor understood that the process was quite dangerous and difficult. But in the end, Shi Yang succeeded. His God soul had been created. Chapter 685, The Three-Tiered Soul Sacrificial Altar. Chapter 685, The Three-Tiered Soul Sacrificial Altar. Shi Yang woke up leisurely. As soon as he opened his eyes, he was stunned, his face strange. The Creator's divine pond had been demolished. The spiritual platform and the materials that built the divine pond seemed to have exploded, leaving only dozen meters wide, pitch-black, deep hole right where the magical formation of the pond was carved. Water immediately filled that pond. Shi Yang scanned the place. He found that all the top-grade essence crystals had turned into ordinary stones. They had no energy surging or any spiritual qi. Yang Tian Emperor stood by the large pothole. He looked distressed, with bloodshot eyes, as if he hadn't slept for several hundred days. He wasn't in high spirits either. After a glance, Shi Yang stopped checking around and analyzed his own body. Astonishment filled his face constantly, as if he had found something miraculous. He looked dumbstruck. Big changes had happened in his head. His sea of consciousness had expanded by 5 times. Waves rippled in his brain. Each flow of his soul consciousness was now a beam of glorious light. They sparkled radiantly with pure soul consciousness energy fluctuating. His vast sea of consciousness started to surge according to some rules of nature. Flows of soul consciousness turned into seawater of the sea of consciousness, as if they could create a miraculous connection with his tendons and vessels, giving him a clear change of essence qi in his body. Quieting down his mind, he surveyed his body. A joy that he couldn't press down flowed through his entire body. His sea of consciousness and the essence qi ancient tree had been connected. Flows of soul consciousness could run to the essence qi ancient tree in his stomach through his vessels and tendons, which helped him control his essence qi and distribute it to his vessels to bring out his supernatural powers. This was a new concept he had never known before. In the spirit realm, whenever he wanted to urge the essence qi in his body, he had to send his soul consciousness to his host soul, which sent the waves of consciousness that ordered to gather the essence qi. After that, with the transportation through special vessels and tendons, he could carry out the effective martial techniques. However, it was different now. Flows of his soul consciousness could connect the vessels and the essence qi ancient tree. When his thought fell into the sea of consciousness like just a small ripple, it could immediately urge the energy in his body. This reaction speed was much faster than before. In other words, he had another faster and more precise way to control the essence qi. But it wasn't the only change in his head. A triangular altar floated above his sea of consciousness. It wasn't a real entity, trembling unsteadily. This was made of many beams and spots of light, which stored the mysterious of life and death intent domain, star, and space. The distinctive surging energy of these 3 powers was unique and mysterious. Floating atop the altar made of the powers of death and life intent domain, star, and space, was the God Soul. The God Soul didn't look like Shi Yang's himself, but more like a chaotic liquid flame. This translucent fluid was murmuring quietly above the altar. Observing for a while, Shi Yang found that the altar had more than 1 tier. It had 3 tiers. The bottom was his vast sea of consciousness. The middle tier stored the mysteries of death and life, star, and space, where these 3 powers formed a triangle. Special energy waves rippled and resonated with his God Soul from this tier. Floating atop the altar was the unshaped flame-like God Soul, which was constantly releasing the soul energy. The sea of consciousness, Upanishads of power, and the God Soul had formed the altar. The sea of consciousness was the largest part that established the foundation. Upanishads of power were in the middle, and the fist-sized God Soul topped them like a liquid flame. As he tried to flicker his thought, he found that his God Soul, the power Upanishads, and his sea of consciousness had fused perfectly. His flow of thought wasn't hindered. As soon as it reached the tier of Upanishad, it could immediately trigger that tier of the altar to rouse the energy. Next, it would connect the sea of consciousness, which controlled the body to make the energy, vessels, and muscles cooperate, to engage the tremendous martial techniques. The God Soul would control everything with the power Upanishads and the sea of consciousness as its two assistants. When the God Soul manipulated his blood and muscles with the essence Chi, he could strike a martial technique with the power from the Upanishad to have an intimidating attack. Was it the true God realm? A beam of doubt flashed in Shi Yang's head. In the next moment, his spirit flew out from his body with a trace of distraction in its eyes. Swoosh swoosh. A bright silver flame was dancing unsteadily above the sea of consciousness, as if it had been banished from its home, having no foothold at this moment. It was the Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame. While he was breaking through the true God realm, he had condensed the God Soul, which had expelled this heaven flame from his host soul. At this moment, Shi Yang had the God Soul, but the flame couldn't fuse with it anymore, despite the fact that it could still connect with his God Soul. Shi Yang kept silent. His thoughts crossed the God Soul, as if he was searching for something. He was trying to contact the heaven flame. After a while, his eyes brightened, and his spirit was high. The Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame told him that when the heaven flame fused, they could be placed at the center of his three-tiered altar, becoming a new tier. The God Soul was mysterious and inexplicable, which stored the purest miracle of nature's principle. Once it was formed, it could only contain the seals of Upanishad, knowledge, and memories. It couldn't hold any other creature. Heaven flames were some sorts of living beings with a consciousness, which meant it couldn't be fused with his God Soul. If he insisted on making a fusion, it would be possible if a heaven flame were the perfect match with a seal of Upanishad he had comprehended. However, he had to erase the memory of the heaven flame to put its seal into the seal of Upanishad. This would boost the development and breakthrough of that Upanishad seal tremendously. However, the three seals of Upanishad in his God Soul weren't matched with the heaven flame's characteristics. This kind of fusion was hard to carry out. And, Shi Yang didn't want to erase the heaven flame's memories. A heaven flame without intellect and memories wasn't something he wanted. Perhaps the Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame had recognized his thought, so it sent him this soul thought, giving him a win-win solution, coexisting. He would have a new sacrificial altar floating above his sea of consciousness, which was formed by the heaven flames. It would coexist with the tier of the power Upanishad to nurture his God Soul. It could use his sea of consciousness to shelter and absorb his energy. Of course, it could provide him powers as well. This structure had the same meaning, with the heaven flames being a special power Upanishad. However, it wouldn't be combined with the second tier of his three-tiered altar, or connect perfectly with the sea of consciousness and the God Soul. Anyhow, they could still support each other well. Shi Yang didn't follow its suggestion immediately. He decided to talk to the ice-cold flame first. He wanted to know the other flame's opinion. After the ice-cold flame received his offer, it considered for a while. Eventually, it decided that they could carry out this plan, as it would benefit both of them. The heaven flames could use his sea of consciousness, and the energy from his blood and flesh to nurture themselves, making them stronger. Furthermore, since they didn't fuse with the God Soul, it would be easier if they wanted to leave him later. To Shi Yang, when the three-tiered altar had another section made of heaven flames, he could use the power of the heaven flames. When he battled with the others, he could use them at ease. He didn't trust the Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame much. However, he trusted the ice-cold flame more. After he got the ice-cold flame's idea, he started this plan immediately. When his thought moved, the Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame turned into a sea of bright silver flame, staying in a corner of the power Upanishad tier, floating above the sea of consciousness. The ice-cold flame and the earth flame in the blood vein ring flew out, turning into two small flames that entered his eyes. They flashed and then disappeared into this sea of consciousness, staying with the Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame. Two flows of aura, a scorching one and an icy one, bobbed in Shi Yang's sea of consciousness. His God Soul felt irritated a little bit. Later on, when the ice-cold flame and the earth flame tried to reduce their power, his God Soul gradually adapted. The auras of the Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame, the ice-cold flame, and the earth flame turned into 3 streams of unique energies, just like the triangular tier of power Upanishads, which could enhance his god soul. He was sensitive enough to sense it. We still have another one. Shi Yang sent his thought to the blood vein ring. Release it. I want to confine it. The aura of the corpse vanishing flame oozed little by little from the blood vein ring. Shi Yang got this heaven flame from Qing Ming, and it hadn't been loyal to him yet. He had kept it in the blood vein ring. At this moment, when the ring loosened its confinement, the flame wanted to run away shortly. Star chain. Shi Yang's soul flickered, and his sea of consciousness murmured. The star Upanishad in the triangle tier was urged. A crystal-clear chain that was sparkling like the stars in the sky stormed out from his heart and twined the corpse vanishing flame, dragging it into his body. After Yun Hao had entered the city, he had imparted the techniques related to the star execution and the flaming sun execution of the radiant god cult to Shi Yang. Now, he had the cutting edge of these forces. This star chain was the development of the star Upanishad, which could imprison soul form beings. It was special confinement for the strange and eccentric souls of creatures. The ice-cold flame's aura diffused from his eyes. Flows of freezing air extended to the star chain, increasing its confining power. The corpse vanishing flame couldn't wiggle. Don't fail me. I let you enter my inner sea of consciousness, which gives you face. If you don't follow me, I can make you stop struggling forever. Shi Yang's icy cold soul will entered the green corpse vanishing flame. The star chain dragged him to the sea of consciousness. As soon as it got into the sea of consciousness, the ice-cold flame, the earth flame, and the 9 serenities soul-devouring flame swarmed over and restrained it. The corpse vanishing flame stopped wiggling. It seemed to follow his thought, letting him do whatever he wanted. At this moment, Shi Yang put aside what was happening in the world out there, magical flames dancing in his cold eyes. Using the technique the ice-cold flame and the 9 serenities soul-devouring flame had told him, he used the sea of consciousness as the foundation and the god soul to guide and gather the energy of his body, condensing a proper place on the triangular altar for the heaven flames to rest. A new expansion, which could help both sides increase their powers, was slowly formed. In the beginning, the coarse vanishing flame had still resisted. Afterward, when he knew Shi Yang's real intentions, it felt joyful and started to cooperate with him more. It wasn't stupid. When the flame knew Shi Yang didn't want to erase its memories and just wanted to live together, it stopped struggling and proactively helped him. Chapter 686, True God Realm. Chapter 686, True God Realm. The establishment of the new altar was faster than he had expected. After 3 days, another tier of the heaven flames appeared on the triangle of the 3 powers Upanishad. The 4 heaven flames, including the 9 serenities soul-devouring flame, the ice-cold flame, the earth flame, and the corpse vanishing flame, had formed a rectangle. A strange material connected them together. It was the combination of the sea of consciousness, his blood and flesh chi, and the energy of his will. After this expansion of the altar was completed, Shi Yang could contact the 4 heaven flames easily, as they had a soul connection. He could easily urge the powers of the 4 heaven flames as he wished. The 4 heaven flames became a power Upanishad of his. Although they weren't combined with the god soul like the Upanishad of star, death and life, and space, they weren't any weaker. The 4 heaven flames were satisfied with their current situation. Staying above the sea of consciousness, they could use Shi Yang's sea of consciousness and his vigorous aura to nurture themselves. Later on, they wouldn't need to worry that the warriors would use special tools to restrain them. If they wanted, they could fly out at any moment. At this moment, Shi Yang's breakthrough to the true God realm had come to a perfect end. He had created the God Soul. The 3 power Upanishads of star, death and life, and space had advanced formidably under the fierce urge of the Creator's divine pond. At the same time, they could cooperate in a perfect balance, using the coexisting form of the triangular altar. Shi Yang opened his eyes, revealing a forced smile as he saw the Creator's divine pond was just a ruin now. Great-grandpa, I'm so sorry. I can't use this shortcut for you anymore. I didn't expect that my breakthrough would create this mess. All the top-grade essence crystals, the soul-washing divine water, the life original fluid, the crystal clear soul that the soul-gathering pearl had refined, and even the star original essence crystals, were consumed completely. Nothing remained there. He had absorbed all kinds of energies from the divine pond, using its destruction to create his success in building the God Soul and his power Upanishads to enter the first sky of true God realm. It's okay. As long as you are well, Yang Tian Emperor smiled, his face exhausted. Even if we don't have this pond, I believe I can break through soon. Haha, perhaps using my own comprehension to reach the new realm would help me thrive better. You shouldn't let it burden you. Shi Yang nodded. As things had accelerated to this point, he knew speaking was no help. Shi Yang, is your body all right? Yang Tian Emperor was a little bit nervous. No. It's better than ever. Haha. Great-grandpa, don't worry. I've gained a marvelous benefit this time. I can understand the essence of the martial path. It's like I have a whole new world in my reach, Shi Yang said smilingly. Yang Tian Emperor could finally ease his mind. Then, it's good. Wait a minute, I want to see if Xia Xinyang's still alive. Shi Yang's face was complicated, as he felt uneasy. A drop of ruby blood rolled from his fingertip, shining in red halo, showing its powerful, evil energy. A thought was sent to his god soul, creating magical waves of energy, urging the power of the triangular altar. The power of space was triggered, connecting to his entire body. A light road appeared in front of him. Space distorted, and a small slit cracked open. He could see many glorious lights inside that space, making it look like a giant spiderweb, which hid the mysteries of the mighty space. That garnet drop of immortal blood rolled into that slit and moved for a while before shattering. At the moment the drop of blood shattered, a feeble connection stormed into his god soul. His god soul whispered a name, turning it into a vehement soul fluctuation, rising strongly. Shi Yang slightly paled. Another thought flickered, and another drop of his immortal blood fell into that space crack. Soon, the connection appeared again for a fraction of time before it vanished. Shi Yang dropped another drop of his immortal blood and sensed. After dropping 5 drops of immortal blood into the space slit continually, Shi Yang paled, closing his eyes and trying to sense deeper. After a while, the space slit in front of him started to close. What? Is that little girl alive? Yang Tian Emperor asked gingerly. Shi Yang nodded, furrowing his brows. Alive. I can sense a connection. However, she's in an area far away. Although I have a new cognition of the space Upanishad, it's hard to use the immortal blood to connect with her. Seems like she's not well. I feel like she's bearing an extreme torture. Yang Tian Emperor kept silent, as he didn't know what to say. In his eyes, Xia Xinyang wasn't worth Shi Yang's concern. Wasting 5 drops of immortal blood just to know whether she was alive or not made Yang Tian Emperor feel quite grieved. He also knew the immortal rebirth secret, and had the immortal blood, too. That's why he knew how precious each drop was. At the critical moment, a drop of immortal blood could grow flesh and blood. Using it to predict someone's life was such a waste. However, he couldn't advise the young man, because he used to be hurt because of love himself. He understood that love was something that caused the most extreme pain, and it was hard to reason against. Don't worry. I have my principle. I won't let my affections mess up with my mind. Falling in love is the most glorious phase of someone's life. When I meet my love, I will spend everything to keep it. But if I can't have it, or I can't keep it, I won't be confounded for the rest of my life. Shi Yang smiled, looking at the old man. Great-grandpa, do you think I can't let it go? Yang Tian Emperor woke up and smiled sincerely. He knew this kid was cold-hearted, and he would never let his mind sink into troubles because of the external world. How long have I been here for? Why do I feel it's been a really long time? Shi Yang asked suddenly. Almost a year. Yang Tian Emperor forced a smile, shaking his head. Kid, when you break through the realm, you always make it faster than the others. But you were so slow in the divine pond. I wonder what had happened. Slow doesn't mean bad, Shi Yang grinned brightly. This shows I've gained good things. Much better than the others. Yang Tian Emperor got it. His eyes brightened. You. Yeah, I got better things than Di Shan and Li Zhangrong. Otherwise, the pond wouldn't be destroyed, haha. Shi Yang felt pleased. Yang Tian Emperor was surprised. He also smiled, talking in a cheerful tone. Good, as long as you have gotten a good harvest, we don't need to worry anymore. Let's go. We don't need to get back to this place. A thought flashed. The earth flame released its power and opened the formation on the lake surface. Shi Yang and Yang Tian Emperor leaped up to the sky. Frowning at the lake, Shi Yang pondered for a while and then pointed downward. Space power twisted, ripping a large space crack and covering the entire lake. Shortly, the lake disappeared, leaving a 100 square miles hole under their feet. Yang Tian Emperor discolored. This performance had struck him deeply, tearing space and creating a giant hole to swallow the entire lake. Such move was worth calling it a miracle. Although the divine pond's destroyed, it still has the streaks of formation that the others could restore. Perhaps someone could do it. It would be a disaster then. There are so many great experts from the antiquity time in the divine great land at this moment. Perhaps someone could restore it completely, said Shi Yang. Yang Tian Emperor nodded. Better to be careful. I was careless thinking that no one could restore this lake besides you. That's why I didn't think much. I can't restore it. Shi Yang forced a smile. The one who built this pond was a divine grade formation master. He had 3 king god realm experts to support him. They had used countless materials to carve at least 5,000 small formations. I can't understand many formations. So of course, I can't restore them. Yang Tian Emperor was surprised. The higher realm I reach, the smaller I feel. In this life, there are so many intimidating existences. Our power isn't worth mentioning. Shi Yang forced a smile. He suddenly recalled the creature in the soul sea inside the dead soul's evil lair of the Dark Spirit clan. That year, he had taken risks using his hollow soul to enter that place and survey once. The ancient aura of that soul sea was as hard to predict as the universe. That cold evil will could smash his hollow soul, as if it were killing an ant. At that moment, he thought it was something at the true god realm. However, through fighting with Long Zhu, Lin Meng, and the experience he got through entering his new realm, he could confirm that that existence was beyond the concept of the true god realm. The Cold Wind Island, where the corpse god sect was based, had a space crack. Shi Yang had seen skeletons of 8,000 meters long level 10 beast, which was beheaded in one strike. The one that could kill a level 10 beast, the level that could be compared to the king god realm, how intimidating he must have been. The more he learned, the more careful he was. He would never have an arrogant thought in his mind because of his achievements, all because he understood that there were so many inexplicable existences out there. If the warriors who had escaped this continent into the outer space in the antiquity time were still alive, which realm they would be at now? Sometimes, he didn't dare to think about it further. The more he thought about it, the more struggling he figured out the road ahead of him was. He felt helpless. However, on this path, he would never stop his steps. Don't think too much. Everything starts with the first step. Every strong warrior has a struggling time like us. Without making an effort, will we ever see the beautiful sights? Later, when we look back to today, we will see it valuable to our development, Yang Tian Emperor said emotionally. Shi Yang nodded and smiled. I understand. I won't let it affect me. We should go back. Yes. Ripples of space appeared in front of Shi Yang, bringing the mysteries of space power. Shi Yang stepped into the space ripples, disappearing shortly. In the next moment, he appeared in the city center. He had crossed 1,000 miles just with one step. The advancement of Space Upanishad had increased his speed to an unimaginable level. He could build a passage that could cross space. He could travel 1,000 miles with only one step, as easily as flipping his hands. Chapter 687, Put Down. Chapter 687, Put Down. With only one step and his soul consciousness, he could arrive at his destination easily. Shi Yang arrived in the utmost 8 purgatories city in just a blink. After 1 year, the city he had built himself had new changes. The city center wasn't changed, But the outer city had been expanded by 3 times. The Radiant God Cult, Fighting Union, and the other small forces had set up many formations and barriers. They had used their sect's formation and barriers to make the city bigger and stronger. Many warriors with shabby clothing gathered and built shelters several hundred miles around the Silver City. Shi Yang stood on the city wall of the outer city, as his soul consciousness glided over those people. He found that they were also human, but they didn't belong to the group he had allowed to stay in the city. Bao Ao and Jieji took the demon clan and left 9 months ago. They had been waiting for Shi Yang for so long. Eventually, they couldn't help but leave and go on with their business. Li Zhangrong, Cao Qiudao, Di Shan, and Yu Ru came to see him at the city wall, their faces filled with sincere smiles. I met some changes in my advancement, so it took a lot of time. Anyway, I'm all right. You don't need to worry. Shi Yang told them his situation first, not waiting for them to ask him. What's happened to those people? Ah, they are the survivors. They were lucky that they survived the pagans' hunting. Li Zhangrong frowned and explained. After you got into the Divine Pond, alien tribes hunted people in the perpetual night forest everywhere. Many people got killed, while some had left the perpetual night forest to some places far away. However, their results were also tragic. Those who were lucky enough to survive came here on their own. They want to get in the city to save their lives. Without you here, we won't let them in. Hence, they camped out there. Harumph. Those people seem to be smart, choosing this place to take shelter. Otherwise, I guess they would have been killed already, Cao Qiudao sneered. Alien tribes were hunting human clan everywhere. Only this utmost 8 Purgatories city could stay away from that massacre. On one hand, this city had strong forces, and on the other hand, the Demon Clan and Monster Clan supported them, which made the other 4 clans spare this city during their hunt. Thus, those who weren't allowed to enter the city and had camped outside also survived. Alien tribes didn't target them anymore. Shi Yang scanned them. He could see that they were living in poor conditions. Some still had open wounds. Many of them brought their families along with senile members. The survival pressure had affected them badly. They seemed to be subdued by some invisible force. Their eyes were always gloomy and distressed. Shi Yang, Longzhu appeared all of a sudden, wearing a merciful face, looking at him miserably. No matter what, they are the members of the human clan. If we don't care about them, once the pagans come, they will be eradicated in just a blink. Shi Yang frowned. He pondered for a while and then asked the others. What do you think? Old Long is right, Li Zhangrong and Cao Qiudao said in a low tone, their faces solemn. Those people had gathered there for a long time. They had spent months to beg for a slot in the city. As the others had heard a lot of their whining and begging, even a man with a steel heart couldn't help but agree with them. Many of them were old and wounded. If they didn't care, perhaps they would die sooner. All right, Shi Yang nodded, open another region in the outer city and let them in. Yeah, let them stay alone. Remember, don't let them enter the city center. Although they are miserable, they are to be blamed for what they've done. These people change their minds often. They had aimed at us. The city center's really important, so we can't make a mistake. If they destroy our effort, there will be no place for our regret. Okay, I will arrange this myself, Longzhu smiled, turning around to prepare for those people. When Bao Ao and Jieji left, they left you a note saying that you should go to their place after you get out. They have something important they want to talk with you. Cao Qiudao took out a map of the Grace mainland, which had a location marked in bold red ink. Shi Yang skimmed the map, but he didn't receive it. What's the current situation? Cao Qiudao, Di Shan, Yu Ru, and Yang Tian Emperor shook their head as they felt a little bit embarrassed. You don't know? Shi Yang was surprised. We've been here, and we rarely go out. Our operation range is within the perpetual night forest. Yu Ru smiled tenderly and explained. Half a year ago, all alien tribes left the perpetual night forest. At this moment, only the Monster Clan and us stay in this forest. The alien tribes have claimed the rest of the continent. The 5 great alien tribes have divided the Grace mainland into many regions, and each of them rules an area. We feel lucky they don't come here to attack us anymore. I heard Yang Long of the Monster Clan say that the 5 alien tribes have an internal dispute. They seemed to be having a war too. But I don't know the details, added Cao Qiu Dao. Human clan in the Perpetual Night Forest didn't dare to leave the Perpetual Night Forest, but the Monster Clan didn't have this restriction. Yang Long and Shui Lai, the rulers of the Monster Clan, often got out of the forest. They knew the situation of the continent out there. However, they weren't interested in this stuff, so their information wasn't clear enough. Yeah, seems like I have to go out and check the situation of the continent. Shi Yang pondered for a while and then came to the city center to prepare for his trip. Shi Yang spent 3 days in the city center to check every formation, barrier, and restriction once. He found that everything still worked well after he had left the city. There were no big issues. This relaxed his mind. He talked to Yangtian Emperor, Di Shan, and Yu Ru about the mysteries and the important features of the utmost 8 Purgatories city. After he left, if something happened, they would know how to solve it. After he prepared everything properly, he left to see Bao Ao and Jie Ji of the Demon Clan. He Qing Man and Chu Yang Qing came to him before he left. Their complexion looked complicated. That year, when they were still in the Endless Sea, Shi Yang had helped the Yang family to confirm their overlord position in the Endless Sea. At that time, they had an abyss between each other already. He Qing Man and Chu Yang Qing had survived and left the Endless Sea. They had become Yang Ku's disciples, which helped their cultivation base increase fast. The 2 girls thought that it would help them shorten the distance between them and the man. However, when they met him again, Shi Yang had reached the 2nd sky of Spirit Realm. Even their teacher couldn't do anything to him. After the earth-shaking event in the Perpetual Night Forest, they had a new cognition of the fact that the distance between them had never been shortened. Quite the contrary, it was getting bigger and bigger. Shi Yang had reached the true God realm, and the 2 girls, although they were always doing their best, hadn't even reached the spirit realm yet. It seemed that they were a life away. Today, Shi Yang's position and profile had gone beyond their imagination. He would possibly become the future leader of Human Clan, with good relationships with the Monster Clan and the Demon Clan. This made them understand that no matter how hard they tried, they would never reach Shi Yang. At this moment, there were so many beautiful women in the city, and each had wished that Shi Yang would favor them, even for only one night. It was enough for them to be proud. Compared to those women, they found that they had not many advantages. The thought of being together with Shi Yang for the rest of their lives had faded away. Life was always cruel. To warriors, if the realms were too much different, it was hard to be together. Shi Yang had many companions now, which made them recognize that leaving him when he was weak had become the thing they had regretted the most. I'm surprised I can meet you guys here. How are you doing? If you need anything, just tell me. I will help you. Shi Yang talked first as he saw the 2 staying silent. No, we live well. Thank you. If you hadn't let us in, perhaps we would be dead already, He Qing Man whispered. Shi Yang nodded. Then it's good. We've known each other since we were in the Endless Sea. We're friends. It's natural if I help you, right? Shi Yang, if you meet our teacher this time, please spare her life, as she had helped us before, begged Chu Yang Qing. Which teacher? Wu Qin of the Endless Sea or Yang Ku? Shi Yang was surprised. Our teacher in the Endless Sea is dead. It's Yang Ku. Chu Yang Qing sighed, her face dreary. Shi Yang nodded. Yeah, if I meet Yang Ku, as long as she won't want to kill me, I will give you face. The 2 women then thanked him. Qing Man. I want to have a word with him in private. Could you? Chu Yang Qing bowed her head shyly. He Qing Man was surprised for a while, then she left begrudgingly. Waiting until the other woman left, Chu Yang Qing's beautiful eyes sparkled. She stooped her blushed face, talking shyly. That year in the Endless Sea, before you left, I had told you that if you take me to the divine great land, I will be your woman. Shi Yang was startled. Then, he waved his hand generously. I was messing around. Don't mind that. Ha. I'm serious. Chu Yang Qing lifted her head, her beautiful eyes sparkling while looking at him. If you want me, You can come to me at any time. I'm always willing to be with you. Then, Chu Yangqing blushed, running away without waiting for Shi Yang to answer. She left an enchanting fragrance in Shi Yang's nostrils. Shi Yang rubbed his nose, smiling and sighing quietly. As he had experienced so many things, he wasn't so arrogant and compulsive like before. He understood that the debt of love was the most difficult debt to be paid off. When he had just entered the endless sea, He Qing Man and Chu Yangqing were the famous beauties he could never reach. They were the pearls of the sea that many young men had yearned for. At that time, if He Qing Man and Chu Yangqing showed him a flash of their affection, he would be touched so much that he could have cried, as he would have felt proud beyond comparison. However, Chu Yangqing had humbled herself to ask for his knight now. Human affairs were unpredictable and marvelous indeed. Chapter 688, Ancient Desolate Area, Border Sea. Chapter 688, Ancient Desolate Area, Border Sea. The location Bao Ao had shown him was in the far east of the Divine Great Land, a place called the Ancient Desolate Area. In antiquity time, the Grace Mainland had an area called the Ancient Desolate Area, the transition area between the great clans, where different clans gathered and exchanged goods. As Shi Yang had reached the true God realm, he had a deeper knowledge of space. Eventually, he got to know that there were some smaller spaces around the Grace Mainland. They were like some small rooms surrounding a big room. In antiquity time, those small spaces were the territories of different clans that they had exploited. During that old time, the 10 clans had thrived. As their experts with tremendous supernatural powers weren't contented with the small area of the Grace Mainland, they had found themselves new worlds. Those areas contained thick spiritual qi and precious materials. They had used different methods to find many smaller spaces around the Grace Mainland, where their clan could stay and exploit. Soon, they found out those spaces were filled with spiritual qi and rich soil, which was suitable for their clan to live. Then, the alien tribes moved to those smaller spaces, cultivating and searching for precious products of nature. They had divided and claimed their own territories. As time flew, many clans stayed in the small spaces. Some clans that were defeated in big wars in the Grace Mainland also moved their whole clan out of the continent. Actually, the 7-layered underworld, the 4 demon areas, the chasm battlefield, the secret domain in the Cold Wind Island, and the ice and fire secret domain in the perpetual night forest were all the small spaces outside the Grace Mainland. After tens of thousands of years, they had developed to the current appearance. Those spaces were connected with each other and the Grace Mainland, and some gateways were sealed for some reasons. After so many years, many of the small spaces had run out of spiritual qi. Some spaces were sealed, becoming the survival regions of alien tribes. They would never connect with the Grace Mainland again. The Ancient Desolate Area was the place connecting territories of alien tribes. Above the Ancient Desolate Area was the Border Sea, where many heaven gates kept floating and bobbing, leading to numerous small spaces. Since space power in the Border Sea above the Ancient Desolate Area was chaotically abundant, it was the most suitable place to build heaven gateways. That's why the clans had decided to build the gateways there to connect to the smaller spaces. Gradually, the Ancient Desolate Area had become a special existence. However, no one knew what had happened to the Border Sea in the modern time that all heaven gateways had been closed. Due to the chaotic space energy in the area, people didn't dare to take risks and explore the place. In the modern day, there were no experts who specialized in building heaven gateways. Thus, the Ancient Desolate Area had become an abandoned place. Previously, the 7 ancient factions had sent their hotshots to guard the area and the Border Sea above, as they were afraid something would happen to the Border Sea. During the recent 10,000 years, everything was normal there. Gradually, the 7 ancient factions had loosened their guard. They withdrew the hotshots and didn't pay much attention to the area. It was until the time Shi Yang comprehended the space power, which led to the Great Space Fission, and the Border Sea changed abnormally. Many sealed heaven gateways opened under the effect of the space power. Bao Ao and Jie Ji had come back to this continent from the second demon area through the heaven gateway here. Shi Yang had gathered space power, using his soul consciousness to direct the way. Half a day later, He had crossed through layers of space just like walking through the doors to get to the ancient desolate area. As soon as he had arrived there, he saw the wonder of the antiquity time, the border sea. It was a barren place with a garnet ground and no foliage. Shi Yang saw many ruins of palaces and buildings, with many traces of ancient formations. At first glance, the ancient desolate area looked like an imposing ruin of a big city. The sky above the ancient desolate area had many cracks, like long cuts, across the sky. Those cuts contained billions of light spots, with fierce space power that could crush everything. That was the border sea. Shi Yang faced up the sky and recognized that the border sea was made of countless space slits. Each space slit led to a small space, which were the secret domains Yun Hao had mentioned. The journey to the secret domains Yun Hao and the 7 ancient factions had mentioned was the trip to the border sea above the ancient desolate area. The 7 ancient factions had some secret techniques that could open 1 or 2 secret domains here. These places still had spiritual qi and some interesting places to explore. Today, when Shi Yang observed so many cracks in the sky, he understood that the 7 ancient factions didn't need to open any secret domain anymore. Most of the gateways to the secret domains were inside the space cracks. However, it would be tough to explore those areas. Bao Ao and Jie Ji had shown him this area. However, Shi Yang's soul consciousness couldn't sense anything. Standing in the barren, quiet ancient desolate area, Shi Yang mused for a while, releasing flows of invisible lightning-like soul consciousness to the space slits in the border sea above his head. Behind each space slit was a small space above the Grace mainland. During the antiquity time, those spaces were the territories of the strong tribes. But after tens of thousands of years, the spiritual qi there had scattered completely. Now, only death qi filled the place. When a normal warrior sent his soul consciousness to the space slit, not only couldn't he get anything, but also couldn't retrieve it back, which would affect his soul. Shi Yang was different, as his soul consciousness carried the mysteries of space Upanishad. It could glide through space slits without being hindered. Normal space energy fluctuation couldn't affect him, giving him room to explore the place. More than 300 flows of soul consciousness sneaked through the space slits. Flows of death and desolate aura came back to his god soul, making him understand the basic situation of those spaces. There was no living fluctuation, spiritual qi, or treasures that carried energy. In those small spaces, it seemed that silence dominated the entire area, which caused him a fierce soul impact. Actually, the antiquity time didn't have only the 10 races. The God clan, the Dark clan, the Demon clan, and the Monster clan were just the 10 strongest clans. Besides them, there were almost 100 minor and bizarre races. However, they were weak, and their competence was unclear. Those small clans had opened space cracks and moved their whole clans there. However, after so many years, those spaces were tranquil, as if the clans staying inside were all dead. Shi Yang was frightened. Looking at the border sea above his head with so many space cracks, Shi Yang didn't give up. He gathered and condensed his soul consciousness, sending it to survey more space slits. There were several thousand space slits inside the border sea. Even his soul consciousness's intensity couldn't search them all shortly. He had to carry it out step by step. The 300 flows of soul consciousness hadn't reported any energy fluctuations of living beings to him. Everything was quiet and desolate, which distressed him a little bit. He understood that one of those space cracks was the entrance to the second demon area where Bao Ao and Jie Ji had come from. However, finding a door among a countless number of doors wasn't an easy task. He vaguely thought it wasn't good. If nothing unexpected happened, Bao Ao and Jie Ji would send some experienced warriors of the demon tribe to support him. But he saw no one now. What had happened? Then, he observed the surroundings of the ancient desolate area, and found some streaks of recent battles. A thought popped up in his head. The 5 great alien tribes had fought here. Bao Ao and Jie Ji were here. Were they defeated? Did they retreat into the second demon area? Bao Ao and Jie Ji's force could be considered the strongest among the 5 clans. Normally, the other 4 clans wouldn't dare to fight face to face the demon clan. Something unexpected had happened. Shi Yang slammed his eyebrows together. He had a good impression of Bao Ao and Jie Ji. They had helped him. Moreover, he seemed to have the demon bloodline in his body. Naturally, Shi Yang would favor the demon clan more. If the demon clan failed, his career in the perpetual night would be affected. He might be swept away by the other 4 clans shortly. He suddenly felt tense. Shi Yang immediately gathered his soul consciousness and sensed the remaining space splits. A long while later, his eyes brightened. He shuddered and then retrieved the flows of soul consciousness he had released. Got it. A significant beam of demon chi appeared clearly inside a space slit. After he extended his soul consciousness to tens of thousands of miles inside the space crack, he felt the energy fluctuation of living beings for the first time. That was a member of the Ghost Mark clan. He had a good grasp of the Soul Upanishad of the Ghost Mark clan. His soul consciousness just needed to rake through the place, and he could confirm that was a member of the Ghost Mark clan due to his special physique. Shi Yang was certain about it. There was demon chi and adequate conditions for living beings, which confirmed that the demon clan was in there. However, seeing the Ghost Mark clan's member there, Shi Yang assumed that the demon clan had encountered big trouble, and were forced to get back to their homeland. Thoughts crossed his head continually. Shi Yang pondered, following the soul consciousness's direction towards that space slit. This space split was quite peaceful and large. Perhaps, Bao Ao and Jie Ji had renovated this place before. The chaotic, unpredictable space energy waves were restrained by the strange demon techniques, so this place wasn't as dangerous as Shi Yang had thought. After he reached the true God realm, his understanding of the space power had increased by 1 more level. However, the more he knew, the better he understood the dangers of space slits. Although he understood space power, entering the perilous space slits could always take his life away. Many terrible space cracks contained the evilest creatures in the world, along with the most intimidating natural formations. Many space cracks were exactly like giant slaughtering machines, which could destroy every creature, including the god souls. The chaotic space basin was one of the most hazardous places. The furious, disordered flows of space in there could destroy the god soul, or smash the King Godrealm's warriors into pulp. This was why he didn't dare to enter the other entrance of the Ice and Fire secret domain, which had the chaotic space basin. Although he was worried about Xia Xinyang, for the future of the entire family and the human clan, he chose not to take risks. This showed how tremendously dangerous the place was. Swoosh! Like a gust of wind, he glided through the space slit. Immediately, he felt the light in his eyes had vanished, as he stepped in a dark, gloomy world. The second demon area. Chapter 689, The Second Demon Area. Chapter 689, The Second Demon Area. Just like many other secret domains, there were no sun, moon, stars, or spiritual chi of heaven and earth in this area. Shi Yang only saw the thick clusters of demonic clouds on the horizon. The air in the demon area was cold and dry. Strong gusts rolled and slaughtered everywhere like small sharp blades. There was nothing like spring or sunlight here. Unlike the Grace mainland, which didn't have night and darkness anymore, this place was dark and gloomy, which would affect visitors' vision, as they couldn't see anything further than 10 meters. The ground was ink black, as if it were dyed with a thick layer of ink, giving people a heavy pressure. Shi Yang floated in the air, looking afar. He saw many large holes on the ink-black ground. They were like the 9 Serenities abyss, that they couldn't see their bottom, or the giant mouth of a demonic beast, hiding many mysterious dangers. Some holes were larger than 1,000 miles in diameter, such that people couldn't see any beam of light or even their own fingers there. The darkness that filled the place was terrifying, like a black hole in space, that could swallow everything, making people startle in fright. The dark ground had some foliage. However, all of them looked ferocious, with sharp blades on their leaves and branches. Each tree was at least 100 meters high, rooted deep in the earth like a giant monster. Under the cold gust, branches with sharp blades slowly rattled, reflecting the dark, cold beams of light. Many demonic beasts were moving in the immense forest. Usually, demonic beasts were savage. They would never stay idle. They had to compete all the time, fighting and killing the other beasts to survive. The world of beasts here had only killing competitions. Only high-level existences could gain intelligence and mighty powers to trigger the power that always hid in their souls. The ground here was ink-black, and the forest was perilously immense. Many demolished palaces were seen in the abyss. Sometimes, Shi Yang could see pieces of demogon giant statues under so many layers of dust. If he didn't observe carefully, he would never see them. This was the second demon area, a relatively large space outside the Grace mainland, which had demon chi, and hence was pretty suitable for the demon clan to stay in and cultivate. Early in the antiquity time, this land had been exploited, becoming the home of many small tribes of the demon clan. Long time ago, this land had many treasures, including some rare stones and metals that couldn't be found in the Grace mainland. Those were really good for forging powerful secret treasures. The demon clan was once incomparably strong. During the antiquity time, they had claimed all the rich spaces. The first, the second, the third, and the fourth demon areas in those times were the place people had to gawk at and envy. Due to the mighty power of this clan, they had 4 areas to nurture their people, making them stronger quickly. Shi Yang hovered under the ink-black demon clouds, releasing his soul consciousness to sense and search for energy fluctuations of living beings. Not long after his soul consciousness had crossed 30,000 miles, a living being's energy flow shot back to his sea of consciousness, running directly to his god soul. Shi Yang frowned, but he didn't hesitate. He urged his power to gather the mysteries of space power. Space ripples appeared in front of him, each ripple carrying his soul consciousness. Under his feet, the land seemed to move backward, just like a big curtain being pulled away. All forests and abysses disappeared instantly. He was crossing space using the magical power of space, which accelerated him tremendously. The land didn't move. What was moving were his body, spirit, mind, and soul. Dead bodies of the Demon Clan, the Ghost Mark Clan, the Dark Spirit Clan, the Corpse Clan, and the Dark Clan scattered under his feet while he was crossing through space. Shi Yang didn't linger to investigate. At the moment, he knew that a war had happened here, so he would obviously see many corpses scattered everywhere in this demon area. Although the Ghost Mark Clan, the Dark Spirit Clan, the Corpse Clan, and the Dark Clan had joined hands, they would never get the absolute advantage in this land. This was the Demon Clan's territory, the homeland which they were familiar with the most, having the thick demon chi. In this area, even if they were weaker, it wouldn't be easy to chew them. Shi Yang's soul consciousness had locked that soul energy fluctuation. Under the effect of his space power, Shi Yang's soul consciousnness could make a passage with the energy resonance. After 1 hour, he could reach his target. That was a massive abyss covering the area of 1,000 miles squared. Dark demon chi was rolling together with howls and roars of beasts. Bodies were piled around the abyss. Most of them were Demon Clan's clansmen and their mounts. The others were the corpses of the Dark Clan and the Ghost Mark Clan. Their blood was dried, becoming a dark red layer that was sticking on the dark ground. The bloody scent was still very thick, rising from the abyss. The fight down there hadn't ended yet. Shi Yang frowned, looking into the dark abyss, where he couldn't see his own fingers. He decided to sneak in. He owed Bao Ao and Jeji a favor. The ones attacking the Demon Clan today should be the experts of the other 4 clans. Although Shi Yang had reached the true God realm, he wasn't so sure. This time, he could get hurt like the other members of the Demon Clan, or he would have to bury his body in this demon area. Yet, he plunged down anyway. Along his way, demon chi burst out torrentially. Cold gusts slaughtered through the demon chi, bringing the thick, pungent scent of blood. Gradually, Shi Yang could see the vague light down there. It seemed some special intent domains were expanding, creating the strange magnetic fields. Boom boom. Waves of ear-splitting explosion reverberated from underground. Big chunks of dark stones scattered, being flung everywhere, bringing with them tremendous energy. Swoosh. 100 meters long beast was thrown away, rocketing into the air and almost hitting Shi Yang. That beast had a sharp horn on the head, and dark green scales covered its entire body. However, it had so many bleeding wounds that Shi Yang could even see the bones under its flesh. Its life was sliding away. Apparently, he couldn't help it. Shi Yang frowned. This beast was a level 7-1, equal to a human warrior in the sky realm. It seemed to be struck to death with only one strike. The attacker should be a spirit realm expert. Roar! Shi Yang roared like a flying dragon. His cry reverberated everywhere. He dashed quickly, crossing 100 miles in just a blink and falling into the pitch-black abyss. This immense abyss had many transparent crystals inlaid on the walls. They weren't black, but were radiating like 5-colored precious gems, illuminating the bottom of the abyss. Around 1,000 warriors of the demon clan were roaring and crying on their beasts. Members of the Dark Clan and Ghost Mark Clan were chasing after them, getting them involved in battles. Lights shot out from everywhere, together with lightning strikes. Dark treasures and demon treasures impacted, sparking dazzlingly. 3 Yama kings and the 2 experts of the Ghost Mark clan were surrounding 2 clansmen of the demon clan. They were struggling, but their faces were still savage. Their mounts were dying. The 2 demons cried furiously, as if they wanted to risk their lives altogether. They were Bo Ruo and Guda Sai. Shi Yang knew them. They were the members of the ancient Bao family, Bao Ao's subordinates. Bo Ruo and Guda Sai were furious. Under the attacks of the 3 Yama kings and the 2 hotshots of the Ghost Mark clan, they were still bravely resisting. One of the Ghost Mark clan's man had the aura and the soul fluctuation of Cassidy. Bo Ruo and Guda had fallen into the disadvantaged situation. They had so many wounds on their body, and their armors had countless tiny cracks. Star falls. Shi Yang showed himself. He floated and shouted, not caring if the others would notice him. Starlight blazed gloriously, condensing into diamonds in between his hands. They were revolving, falling from his hands like the Milky Way descending from the sky. Flows of eternal star intent domain diffused from each star, as they were arraying into a strange star formation. They moved as fast as meteors, making beautiful curves in the air before descending. The stars hit members of the Dark Clan and Ghost Mark Clan, burning them with star flames. Starlight twirled around their bodies as they were dying. Crack! Shi Yang shouted, pointing towards the place where the 3 Yama kings were standing. A space crack appeared, shooting billion of spacelight beams. The 3 Yama kings acted as if they had met ghosts. They were frightened, moving instantly with grimaced faces. A terrifying suction force was released from that space crack. If they weren't quick enough, once they got pulled into that space, they would have to die for sure. The space crack was perilous. Furthermore, they couldn't locate it, as it could tear space and appear anywhere. It was the deadliest place to be in. Once a creature got into that space, without spiritual chi or energy, its consciousness would shatter, which was more terrible than death. You brat again. A member of the Ghost Mark clan smiled sickly. He had a young appearance, but his aura was senile, which was pretty similar to Cassidy. It's you. Bo Ruo and Guda Sai of the Demon Clan also screamed, wearing an astounded complexion. Bo Ruo still wore male costumes. She was extraordinarily handsome. However, due to the battle, her bun was loosened. Her black hair cascaded like a soft black stream, lingering on her round rear end. She had a small horn on her head, which was the holder of her bun. It was revealed now. It was the distinctive feature of the Horned Dragon clan. Guda Sai belonged to the Black Scale clan. His black scales on his body had grown directly from his skin. He was holding the 2-bladed axe, which had blood on it. This weapon had an earth-shaking murderous aura, as it had drunk a lot of blood apparently. You are Cassidy. You have a body again. Shi Yang slightly changed his visage, as he was assessing the young man of the Ghost Mark clan. He sensed, then shouted in fear. When they were in the perpetual night forest, he had destroyed Cassidy's body, making his god soul run away. After just 1 year, Cassidy had returned with a stronger aura. True. Ha. It's me. Cassidy beamed a gloomy smile. You ambushed me when my power hadn't restored yet. It's my fortune that our patriarch has supernatural powers. He has helped me build a new body and restore my power. If my patriarch didn't want to attack the demon clan first, we would have killed you in the forest already. I will skin you alive. Haha. It's good that you have brought yourself here. Too good. The Ghost Mark clan still had a patriarch. An existence which was even more dangerous than Komaro's. Shi Yang discolored in fright. Chapter 690, Yin Spirit Ghost Flame. Chapter 690, Yin Spirit Ghost Flame. Shi Yang hovered in the abyss deep underground. His face was as still as water, while his mind was seething. Shi Yang felt his heart sink into a dark pit. If the Ghost Mark clan had a patriarch that was more powerful than Komaro's, it would be a big catastrophe pouring on human clan. This clan had a deep grudge against humanity. They had made killing the entire human clan their goal. Anyway, with their mighty force, human clan would be eradicated soon. According to Cassidy, the top priority of his patriarch wasn't the human clan, as he had laid his eyes on the demon clan. Otherwise, Shi Yang would have had no time or chance to break through to the true God realm. While he had so many thoughts in his head, Cassidy attacked him. Soul drawing. Cassidy sneered. His 10 fingers wiggled, releasing an energy that could tear the soul. 10 flows of strange soul fluctuation that naked eyes couldn't see coiled around Shi Yang like tenacious ropes, tightening gradually. Cassidy had eaten the bitter fruit once. He knew that once soul energy entered Shi Yang's sea of consciousness, something strange would happen. This time, he was more careful, as he didn't send his 10 flows of soul energy into Shi Yang's sea of consciousness, but turned them into invisible ropes and wound around Shi Yang's body. A furious pulling force appeared from the 10 soul ropes. It seemed that it could coil Shi Yang's newly formed god soul, dragging it from the altar. Shi Yang discolored drastically. The God Soul was the root of a warrior, which stored the life seal and the seals of Upanishad. Once it was dragged out of his body, it meant his life had come to an end. Cassidy's power Upanishad had aimed at the God Soul. He wanted to forcefully drag Shi Yang's God Soul out of his body. Once the God Soul was pulled out, he couldn't perform many of his martial techniques. At that moment, he would become a fish that he could cut as he pleased. Of course, Shi Yang wouldn't stay idle. Burn! A thought crossed Shi Yang's mind. He shouted, and a white jade flame sparked from his eyes. In the beginning, it was small. Shortly, it had turned into a seething fire sea covering his entire body. Flows of white jade flames twirled around him like water. Cassidy's 10 soul ropes were covered, sizzling in an immense grey mist. They were all burned down. 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flame, heaven flame. Cassidy discolored in fright. Eventually, he understood why he had to face the bitter result so many times. He paled immediately. The Ghost Mark clan was good at using soul Upanishad. Their supernatural abilities had a close relationship with soul. That was also why they had become one of the most powerful, evilest clans. Many human beings, despite their higher realms, had only a tragic ending under their terrifying soul attacks. However, it was no doubt the soul-class defensive treasures were the things the Ghost Mark clan was afraid of the most. And, the heaven flame that could burn all kind of soul energies was no doubt their nemesis. Thus, seeing the white jade flame covering Shi Yang, Cassidy felt as if someone had punched him in the face. He felt so bitter. His 10 soul ropes were burned completely. Cassidy's god soul got hurt the second time. He hurried to back off, as his face distorted terribly. The 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flame seemed to have an unclear grudge against the Ghost Mark clan. After it appeared, the flame hesitated for a while before dashing towards Cassidy, as if it had to burn the man into ashes. Cassidy hastened to run away, urging the mysterious power to resist the flame. Other Ghost Mark clan's members around them scattered in fear, trying to find the way to hide from the flame. However, the 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flame burned their souls. The Ghost Mark clan wasn't good at using the other power Upanishads. If they were another clan, although the 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flame had locked them, they could use the other techniques or energies to counter. However, the power this clan was cultivating was related closely with souls. All the barriers, formations, and defense they had released depended on soul energy. When they met the 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flame, their archenemy, they could only be termed as unlucky, as their barriers and restrictions would be burned as soon as the flame touched them. Gradually, they had no defensive power left. The 9 Serenities' soul-devouring flame seemed to have a big grudge against the Ghostmark clan. After it had flown away from Shiyang's altar, it kept chasing after the Ghostmark clan's members, burning their souls. As it had burned the souls of dozens of the Ghostmark clan's clansmen, it was still gazing at Cassidy. Another expert of the Ghostmark clan was struggling to resist the flame. However, he could do nothing but run away as fast as possible. 9 Serenities' soul-devouring flame was one of the heaven flames, and it was also the nemesis of this race. They had no way to resist its force. At this moment, they couldn't do anything else but leave. They needed to avoid this disaster first, only then they could have time to think of the countermeasures. Shiyang gawked, dropping his jaws. Only at this moment did he finally understand the 9 Serenities' soul-devouring flame's intimidation. Where the white jade flame swept over, all the soul fluctuations were washed away. Members of the Ghostmark clan had no way to withstand it. Soon, members of the Ghostmark clan quickly left the abyss, leaving several hundred bodies while running for their lives. A flow of white flame took one circle and then returned to Shiyang. Like a jade flower, it exposed the eccentric beauty of danger in this abyss. Bo Ruo, Guda Sai, and the hotshots of the demon clan couldn't say anything. Their eyes brightened as they exhaled in relief. It was strange that the 3 Yama King didn't leave or try to support the Ghostmark clan. I have a grudge against this race. The 9 Serenities' soul-devouring flame sent its thought to Shiyang when it came back. People of this race had sealed me. They couldn't kill me, so they decided to confine me. Shiyang suddenly recognized it. It was true. When he was in the place of the Dark Devil clan in the Chasm battlefield, he got the 9 Serenities' soul-devouring flame in the Yin Beast Mountain. The Dark Devil clan was a branch of the Ghostmark clan. So, the one who had sealed the 9 Serenities' soul-devouring flame was related to the Ghostmark clan. This wasn't a surprise. The 9 Serenities' soul-devouring flame's features had made it the nemesis of the Ghostmark clan. This race had to find any means they could reach to destroy this flame. Letting it survive meant planting an indefinite seed of danger for the clan, which they wouldn't know when it would sprout and kill them all. If Shiyang were the hotshot of the Ghostmark clan, he would try many things to seal the 9 Serenities' soul-devouring flame as well. Where are Bao Ao and Jieji? Shiyang turned around, looking at Bo Ruo and Guda Sai. You guys separated? Bo Ruo was a member of the Horned Dragon clan. Her long hair cascaded along her body, touching the ground. Her face was as beautiful as a gem, decorated with her phoenix eyes. Hearing him, she snorted and then said, "The 2 masters are in another area. Stronger enemies are attacking them. Because of you, they have joined hands and attacked our masters." Shiyang was surprised. At this moment, he found that the creature in the dim halo weren't staying with the 3 Yama Kings. Also, Shiyang didn't see the hotshots of the other clans like Komaros, Corpse Chief, and Kunte. From this situation, he could assume that Bao Ao and Jieji were in big trouble. It's the demon clan who had raised the dispute, Yama King Abi harumphed. He coldly looked at Bo Ruo and Guda Sai. If the patriarch of the Ghostmark clan hadn't been revived, you guys would have killed them all. You have triggered this great war. Of course, we won't stay idle and let you slaughter us. Bo Ruo and Guda Sai darkened their faces. If you guys want to do whatever you want and open the first demon area, we have to destroy the demon clan, shouted Yama King Hei Tian. The 3 Yama Kings glared at Shiyang. Their visages were strange, as if they considered Shiyang their delicious prey. The 3 Yama Kings didn't talk more. They gathered their followers and left after the Ghostmark clan. Shiyang didn't understand anything, but he had a strange, uneasy feeling in his heart. From the looks of the 3 Yama Kings when they left, they seemed to be interested in him more, as if he had something marvelous on his body. This surprised him a lot. Shortly, all the members of the Dark clan had retreated. Bo Ruo pinned up her long hair, adjusting her clothes. In the next moment, she returned to look like an elegant, handsome young man. However, her complexion was cold like a gloomy, sharp sword. Abi, He Tian, and Hades might have sent the news already. He will come soon. Bo Ruo frowned, whispering to Shi Yang. Why did you use the heaven flame? It will bring more troubles. Shi Yang squinted, talking faintly. Why do you say so? The dim halo that Abi, He Tian, and Hades have protected carries the soul of the Dark Clan's sage. That soul has the yin spirit ghost flame. If he knows you have heaven flames, he will come and collect your flames. Heaven flames can absorb each other. If he can absorb your heaven flames, his soul will become more intimidating, Bo Ruo explained agitatedly. A streak of light sparkled in Shi Yang's eyes. In the antiquity time, a sage of the underworld had fallen into bedevilment during his cultivation. His body got shattered, and his soul had sunk into the yin spirit ghost sea of the underworld. It then gathered the billion yin spirits of the yin spirit ghost sea to evolve into the yin spirit ghost flame. The yin spirit ghost flame contained the knowledge of the martial path of the underworld sage. If the Dark Dweller got it, he could become the new leader of that Dark Dweller's generation. The yin spirit ghost flame could control the yin spirit and the wandering ghosts. It was ranked number 6 among the heaven flames, and was the most suitable flame to the Dark Clan. According to Bo Ruo, the creature that the 3 Yama kings Abi, He Tian, and Hades had protected was the soul of a sage of the Dark Clan. He had the yin spirit ghost flame, but he didn't have a body. At this moment, he still had many weaknesses. If he could absorb some heaven flames and get stronger, he could use the scorching power of the heaven flame to condense a new body. At that time, he would be extremely intimidating. Chapter 691, The Statues of the Demogon. Chapter 691, The Statues of the Demogon. The yin spirit ghost flame was special, as only soul-formed beings could absorb it. This cold flame had the energy power that could control the spirits or wandering ghosts of the underworld. At the same time, it contained the martial path of the underworld sage. Apparently, a creature of the underworld had occupied this flame. However, he didn't have a body anymore. That was how his soul could merge with the yin spirit ghost flame. He needed to create a new body to promote his supernatural powers. To create a body, it normally required the strong flesh and blood to be refined by the scorching heaven flame. If he could have another heaven flame, his soul would be mightier, and the chance of having a body could be bigger. The heaven flames could devour each other. This was why the world-extinguishing thunder flame wanted to swallow the 9 serenities soul-devouring flame, the ice-cold flame, and the earth flame. If it could merge with the 2 other heaven flames, it would be more powerful than itself. That Dark Clan's creature wanted Shi Yang's heaven flames, and Shi Yang was moved on hearing about the yin spirit ghost flame. The more heaven flames he had, the stronger the heaven flame altar in his brain would become. At that time, he could urge more intimidating power of those flames. If he could occupy the yin spirit ghost flame and merge it with the 9 serenities soul-devouring flame, the corpse-vanishing flame, the ice-cold flame, and the earth flame in the sacrificial altar, this tier of the altar would be sharply increased to another level. Shi Yang also wanted the flame of that creature. He exists in the soul form only. It shouldn't be hard to deal with him, right? He kept silent for a while before his eyes got brightened. It's not hard to deal with him. Guda Sai beamed a forced smile. His scarred face became more ferocious with that smile. Although he only has the soul, he has the strange weapons of the Dark Clan. He has a layer of tens of thousands of yin spirits and wandering ghosts around him. I think even Master Bao Ao couldn't be sure if he could defeat him or not. The corner of Shi Yang's mouth twitched. As Bao Ao and Jieji had taken one step into the King God Realm, they were the formidable experts of the peak of True God Realm. If the demon chi in the demon area had been thick enough, they would have reached the King God Realm earlier with their innate talents. In this land, except for the King God Realm experts, not many people could really threaten Bao Ao and Jieji. Even Qi Tian Oldie Long Zhu wasn't their opponent. If Bao Ao and Jieji weren't that creature's match, even if Shi Yang, after having reached the True God Realm with mysterious power Upanishads, he could never defeat that soul of the Dark Clan. Then, Shi Yang couldn't help but smile miserably. He shook his head begrudgingly, as he was filled with pressure. Why do they want to stop you from opening the first demon area? Asked Shiyang. Wait until you meet our master, he will tell you. Bo Ruo put on a glum face as if she really hated him. She didn't want to explain further. Shiyang rubbed his nose. As he thought it wasn't interesting, he didn't want to chase further. Bao Ao and Jieji didn't explain in details to Bo Ruo and Guda Sai about the relationship between them and Shiyang. In their eyes, it was hard to reason why their masters had turned their backs to the other alien tribes for a human brat. If Bao Ao and Jieji didn't protect them, Shiyang's city would have been demolished. It was normal that the human clan would have been eradicated. This was their original plan. However, after Bao Ao found Shiyang, everything had turned upside down. Their plan wasn't going as they had expected. Bo Ruo and Guda Sai didn't know what their masters had thought. They didn't support this idea, so they deemed Shiyang as the ringleader of all the bad things. Corpses of the demon clan's members scattered everywhere in the second demon area, including their fellows of the Horned Dragon tribe and the Black Scale tribe. They had blamed their fellows' deaths on Shiyang. Let's go. Bo Ruo harumphed, then walked to a hefty stone in the abyss. That stone was really massive. It was around 100 meters tall, ink black and as rigid as steel. More than 700 members of the demon clan ridding their beasts gathered from the other areas in the abyss. They had many wounds, and were looking at Shiyang with hatred in their eyes. Guda Sai's mountain-like muscular body was covered with wounds. He didn't care about that and came to that stone. He extended his arm, touching that stone. A wave of brutal energy was poured into that massive stone. It then moved, cracking and revealing a pitch-black entrance. Bao Ao is in there. Shiyang used his soul consciousness to sense for a while. He was surprised that this passage was empty, as he couldn't detect any energy beam of living fluctuation. He couldn't help but ask. No. Bo Ruo screamed impatiently. She took the lead and entered the wide passage that could allow 100 people walk shoulder by shoulder. Bo Ruo and Guda Sai took their members and the beasts and walked through the passage easily. Shiyang wasn't enraged. He calmly walked behind Bo Ruo and Guda Sai, into the entrance. The wall of this entrance was also black as if it was made of black, rigid metal. Some precious gems were inlaid on the wall, illuminating the passage. Waiting until 100 demons and beasts got into the entrance, the stone behind them slowly moved, sealing the entrance. Bo Ruo and Guda Sai walked in the front while Shiyang followed them. The group of people entered deeper into the entrance. Everyone wore a dark face, and no one uttered a word. The ambience of this entrance was stiff. In this silent place, many members of the demon clan were wearing a cold face, looking at Shiyang with their bloodthirsty eyes, as if they were trying to press down their resentment. Demon clan didn't like humans. Shiyang was a human being, a special human that their masters favored. In those clansmen's eyes, Shiyang had brought death to their fellows. After all, they would never dare to blame Bao Ao and Jieji. This passage was dry, but it had the smell of rotten things. There was no decoration or anything magical. This place brought only a cold and hard feeling, which irritated people's hearts and minds. They had been walking for several hours. However, Bo Ruo and Guda Sai hadn't said a word. Shiyang also kept his mouth shut. His soul consciousness scanned the place, and got to know that this passage was tens of thousands of miles long, as if it would never end. At the same time, it was a spacious place, which was a megastructure underground. After another 4 hours, when Shiyang was so bored he got irritated, Bo Ruo and Guda Sai suddenly put on a serious countenance, their face respectful and fearful. Shiyang focused on them, observing these two. The ink-black wall in front of Bo Ruo and Guda Sai suddenly had some magical demon patterns, which looked like the lines on a human palm. They were complicated and mysterious at the same time. Bo Ruo and Guda Sai stood at that place, biting their fingers to drip their blood on those lines. The demon patterns glowed abruptly like a massive spider web. Those peculiar patterns glowed with silver, green, blue, and orange lights. In this ill-lit passage, they looked both evil and mysterious. A light spot suddenly flashed in the center of the spider web. A light then expanded, sending strange energy fluctuations, lingering and twisting each line. A massive black door emerged in the light. It was 10 meters tall and a dozen of meters wide. Demon chi diffused torrentially from the door. Bo Ruo and Guda Sai threw a look over their shoulder, looking at Shi Yang as they entered the door, without a word. Shi Yang smiled clumsily. He got through the door, not waiting for the others to call him. An ancient, spacious grand palace appeared in his sight. This palace was 1,000 meters tall, with an open center, in an area of 10 miles squared. The center of this palace had many giant black pillars decorated with drawings of demonic beasts. Demon scriptures were carved on the walls outside the palace. Each paragraph was inexplicably complicated, as though it was carrying a mysterious power. A deep pond sat in the center of the palace, where a black flame was burning, releasing a thick demon chi. Standing in the center of the black flame in the pond were 7 ferocious-looked Demogon statues. Each of them was 100 meters tall, as lively as a real person, with ruthless energy waves. Shi Yang stood by that pond as he lifted his head to watch the grand statues. He felt he was so small. Bo Ruo and Guda Sai took the clansmen of the demon clan kneeled down by the pond, using the worshipping etiquette of the demon clan with solemn faces. The beasts who came with them seemed to be affected too. They laid down on the ground, gazing at the beast drawings on many pillars in the hall as if they could receive some energy from them. Vastly through 10,000 years, the Demogons will doesn't extinguish. Vastly through 10,000 years, the Demogons will doesn't extinguish. Bo Ruo and Guda Sai kneeled together with their fellows, looking at the 7 statues of the ferocious Demogon, hailing them with a strange language. At the moment the voices arose, their mind, spirit, and chi had fused with their energy, turning into many beams, rolling into the 7 statues. It was unknown what kind of material they had used to produce those 7 Demogon statues. However, a kind of magical energy was moving continually inside the statues, and it seemed to never fade. Bo Ruo, Guda Sai, and the hotshots of the demon clan had used their minds, spirit, chi, and their willpower to create a connection with some power in the 7 Demogon statues. They seemed to use that power to test their latest progress and gain more flashes of comprehension. The 7 statues of Demogon were like the special existence of the soul sacrificial altar of the Corpse clan, which stored the seal of Upanishads of the demon clan and never lost them. Chapter 692, Derive the Inheritance. Chapter 692, Derive the Inheritance. The power Upanishad in those Demogon statues was the essence of the demon clan's best techniques, just like the martial arts, martial spirit, and other power Upanishad of human clan. However, human warriors usually used books and scriptures to learn the inheritance, while the demon clan used those statues to gain the pure energy that they were cultivating. These 7 Demogon statues seemed to carry kinds of energy and ancient seals of Upanishad, or some new powers that they had just created lately in the second demon area. New members of the demon clan would come here to take the powers. Experts of the clan would visit this place to record the new power Upanishad they had discovered and developed, that the others could come and take it as their inheritance. These 7 Demogon statues carried the culture, Upanishad, essence, and the inheritance of the demon clan. This place was the cradle of the second demon area, the most precious thing they had. As Bo Ruo, Guda Sai and the other experts of the demon clan had new cognition of their powers after the battle, they came here to use the 7 Demogon statues to verify and gain the cultivating techniques that were more suitable to them. The 7 Demogon statues were inexplicably mysterious. They were the great combination of power Upanishads. They could store the knowledge and the way to use energy. All members of the demon clan were humming, connecting themselves with the statues to find the suitable powers for them to learn and break through. Shi Yang gawked as he was astounded because of the demon clan's magic. The way they used the statues to impart their inheritance and culture seemed to be more powerful than using books. Books would be damaged with time. Most of the time, the reason why some martial techniques were lost was because the owners were killed and they didn't leave any books to record their power Upanishad. In such a case, a power Upanishad would disappear forever. The demon clan didn't do the same. They used the carvings on those statues to store the power Upanishads they had gained from the ancient times up to now. Whenever an expert learned a new technique, he would carve it on the statues. Other members could inherit his new technique from the statues or could use it to break through later. From this point of view, the demon clan was a generous clan. They weren't like the human clan who always considered the powers they got a big treasure, which they would never share with the others. Shi Yang suddenly got it. It was no longer unknown why the demon clan was so strong. They had recorded the knowledge and wisdom of the experts in the demon area on those statues, which would help the next generations save time and effort in learning new techniques. That's why people said that demon clan had no weak members, and that everybody was a solider. It was related closely to the Demogon statues. Each new member of the demon clan could come to this place and receive the inheritance under their seniors' guidance. It would be much easier for them to cultivate their powers later. It wasn't like the human clan that only outstanding people could become the disciples of famous experts and enter the martial path. This was also the reason why only a small group among the crowd of tens of thousands of people could become warriors. Human clan, because of their selfishness, wouldn't use this method to preserve the power Upanishads and leave to the next generations, making it an open source for the youths to choose their road of cultivation. Bo Ruo, Guda Sai, and the other members of the demon clan were still humming, connecting with the 7 Demogon statues to feel the mysteries of the power, to learn them and use them for their next battles. Shi Yang stood there motionlessly. He didn't look harmonious with the rest of the demon clan, who were kneeling on the ground. Anyway, no one cared about him, as they were busy connecting with the Demogon statues. They weren't worried that Shi Yang would disturb them or break the statues. Shortly, the inner world 5 devils in his blood vein ring seemed to sense something. They struggled, getting out of the ring. After the 5 devils had absorbed 36 ghostly spirits in the ring, they had grown up vigorously, with mighty, evil soul fluctuations. As soon as the 5 devils got out, they didn't wait for Shi Yang to say anything, flying directly towards the 7 Demogon statues, disappearing shortly. Shi Yang was dumbstruck. Bo Ruo and the experts of the demon clan seemed to not recognize this sudden occurrence. They were still meditating to learn something. However, Shi Yang was so frightened. His soul consciousness flickered, and he found that he still had the connection with the 5 devils. The 5 devils had entered the statues, and they seemed to take in the powers there happily. This finding astounded Shi Yang a lot. The 5 devils were taking the power Upanishad that the demon clan had been imparting for tens of thousands of years in the statues. What kind of F***king situation is it? The 5 devils' absorption speed was rapid. Shortly, they left one statue to go to another. The connection between Shi Yang and the 5 devils became clearer. He found a large amount of knowledge of new realms, demon techniques, and methods he didn't know. When the 5 devils were taking in the power of the statues, it wasn't that they were erasing the powers and knowledge stored in there, as they had just restored the streaks of cognition in their own souls. So, they didn't cause any anomaly to the statues that Bo Ruo and the others could recognize. The number of techniques and power Upanishads wasn't changed. Only Shi Yang knew that the 5 devils had changed slowly. Their aura became more eccentric, as if they were gaining intellect. Shortly, the 5 devils had turned into 5 grey shadows, flying to his sea of consciousness instead of the blood vein ring, before Bo Ruo's group could recognize them. His sea of consciousness was changed again. After the 5 devils had entered, they proactively found a place, gathering in a circle and releasing flows of magical techniques of the demon clan. The 5 devils were now based a little bit farther from the tier of the heaven flame and the seals of Upanishads. They seemed to condense a part of the mysterious tier. Shi Yang was more startled. Currently, he had a 3-tiered altar in his head with the sea of consciousness as the bottom, the heaven flames and power Upanishads as the 2nd tier, and his god soul topping them all. At this moment, the 5 devils had expanded a section in the 2nd tier, building a sacrificial altar similar to the heaven flames and power Upanishads. Shi Yang didn't know what would be stirred up due to this change. He didn't know how to stop them. He could only gawk at the 5 devils, after they had absorbed the mysteries of demon techniques, rolling in his sea of consciousness. Right after that, flows of black flame on the pond nearby started to roll over Shi Yang, as if they were pulled by some mysterious power. Those black flames weren't a real fire. They were the demon chi that was condensed to carry the massive demon energy. Flows of flames covered him as if he were burned by a black fire. Only he knew that the 5 devils had dragged the demon energy in this black fire to configure a new altar. Muscles and blood in his body surged all together. Drops of immortal blood that he had treasured were pulled out, gathering in his sea of consciousness. The mix of his immortal blood, blood chi, demon chi, and the strange aura of the demon techniques had become the foundation of the new altar. Shi Yang felt hurt seeing the 5 devils using his immortal blood. However, he had no way to stop them. In his mind, Shi Yang wanted to see what the 5 devils wanted to do. He vaguely felt that the 5 devils wouldn't harm him, and instead would give him big benefits. Gradually, a shining blood section appeared. It was like a viscous blood sea, with a miraculous winding air floating above the sea. Demon chi then poured into the blood sea, turning it into a black and red sea. The 5 devils arrayed in a pentagonal formation. They stood imposingly like the 5 Demogon statues at the 5 corners, using his immortal blood, essence chi, demon chi, and the other techniques to condense a section similar to the altar of the heaven flames and the seals of Upanishad. A new section of the sacrificial altar. "What are you doing?" Bo Ruo suddenly screamed in fright. She awakened first, and she saw the black flame in the pond covering Shi Yang entirely. Suddenly, Guda Sai and the other members of the demon clan stood up. Their faces were ferocious, as if they all wanted to kill Shi Yang. This place was the holy land of the demon clan. The Hall of Demogon was the holy place, where all demons could take the mysterious powers of the clan. If Bao Ao and Jieji hadn't advised them, even if they had to die, they would have never brought Shi Yang here. He had come here obediently, and now he had caused something strange, that made the thick demon chi cover his body. Bo Ruo's group couldn't stand it. They hated that they couldn't slash Shi Yang 10,000 times to kill him. Nobody had witnessed the 5 devils taking the mysterious inheritance in the statues, so they didn't know that Shi Yang wasn't willing to do that. They assumed that Shi Yang wanted to mess this place up. Shi Yang couldn't answer her, as the 5 devils were torturing him in his head, consuming his soul consciousness and essence chi. At this moment, he couldn't get distracted. He had to observe the sea of consciousness, as he was afraid that something bad would happen. He didn't notice what was happening around him. This human has triggered the demon flame. He must have done something wrong. Kill him. Kill him. Kill him. Kill him. In just a blink, all members of the demon clan in the Hall of Demogon thundered. The Hall of Demogon was the holy place no one could trespass. The respect they had for this place was much more than what they had for Bao Ao and Jieji. Trespassing the Hall of Demogon meant someone wanted to uproot the demon clan in the second demon area. That person would never be forgiven. Bo Ruo and Guda Sai changed their face amidst the furious screams. At this moment, they got a headache as they didn't know how to calm down the situation. Before Bao Ao left them, he had asked them seriously to bring Shi Yang to the Demogon Hall if they found him. And, they had to protect Shi Yang, keeping him safe and sound. However, Shi Yang seemed to trigger everyone's anger in this Hall of Demogon. Those clansmen were enraged, thinking that he had violated the hall. They must use his blood to wash this place. "What should we do now?" Guda Sai frowned, asking Bo Ruo in a low tone, his face begrudging. "Master has advised us to keep him safe. But our demon clan has rules. Anyone who trespasses the Hall of Demogon would be executed. There's no exception even to our clansmen, let alone a human being." Bo Ruo also had a headache. "We can't contact our master now. It's a headache. Urgage, so annoying." You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.